Number 5. Italy and the Vatican. Many believe that one of the earliest documented UFO incidents occurred in 1931 in Magenta, Italy, within the Lombardy region. The UFO, initially resembling a lenticular disc, crashed and morphed into a bell or acorn shape upon impact. Surprisingly, the artifact contained no biological remnants, puzzling the Italians who sought clarification from the Germans, suspecting it might be one of their experimental crafts. Italian researchers later uncovered documents revealing the incident, despite initial suppression. The Germans disclaimed ownership of the strange object, but collaboration between Italian and German scientific and military entities ensued as both nations were intrigued by the unusual artifact. The collaboration's specifics remain unclear, but it suggests a level of scientific and military exchange prompted by the discovery. The Italians, perplexed by the crash, reached out to the Germans for clarification, and it sparked joint investigations into the mysterious object. The Germans denied ownership, of course, but this collaboration hints at the international curiosity surrounding such occurrences and the cross-border efforts to understand them. While details about the discovery remain uncertain, historical records indicate that the crashed vehicle measured approximately 20 feet by 10 feet, making it sizable but not excessively large. Questions regarding its nature as a drone or a piloted craft were dismissed, as there was no evidence of occupants inside the artifact. After the crash, the military intervened, relocating the object to a designated storage location. The United States eventually obtained access to the artifact towards the end of World War II, marking one of the early instances of documented UFO recovery by the US government. Human intelligence operations were informally conducted by various entities, including the Vatican, which played a role in intelligence gathering for the United States. This background helps explain why the Pope became involved in the investigation of the UFO crash. Over the decades, insights gained from these programs have influenced various classified projects, contributing to national defense innovations. Number 4. Lonnie Zamora incident. In the spring of 1964, Lonnie Zamora claims to have seen two people standing beside a large, shiny object that later launched into the air with a roaring burst of fire. Lonnie gained a significant amount of attention from the media, UFO organization and investigators, and the Air Force. Lonnie Zamora found himself in an open field after seeing what he assumed to be a motor crash from a distance. Zamora continued pursuing the crash until he saw a blaze of fire. Zamora then assumed that an explosion had occurred, so he decided to investigate the incident from a distance. It was then that Lonnie noticed a white, shiny object, originally assumed to have been an overturned white car. He described the object being oval and likened the material to aluminum. Many theories have been provided in an attempt to explain what Lonnie saw that night. Some said it was merely a mirage of the star Canopus. Others suggested that it was a lunar landing test by humans, not aliens. The president of New Mexico Tech claimed that it was just a prank put on by some of the students, saying it was just a balloon and a candle, not high-tech alien equipment. In 1966, the country's commerce president decided to make the location more accessible to tourists. They installed walkways and signage, hoping to attract alien enthusiasts from all over the country. But the tourist destination is actually not placed at the exact site. In fact, it's about a quarter-mile away. Locals claim the decision to move the pathways was due to radioactivity on the original site. Number 3. Las Vegas. In late April, the city of Las Vegas found itself at the center of a peculiar event when local police responded to reports of two unidentified entities falling from the sky. Coinciding with these alarming reports was a family's claim of encountering a non-human presence in their backyard. The incident unfolded on the night of April 30th, 2023, with police responding to the family's call about a strange-looking, abnormally large creature standing at an astonishing 10 feet tall in their own backyard. A colleague had reported a similar sky sighting just 8 minutes earlier, prompting the officers to acknowledge the unusual coincidence and take it somewhat more seriously. And then, yet another resident reported a 100% non-human object on their property, accompanied by separate body camera footage capturing a glowing object in the night sky. About 40 minutes later, yet another resident reported two unknown entities in his backyard, describing them as 8 to 10 feet tall and resembling sci-fi aliens with large eyes and mouths. The bold declaration that these entities were 100% not human added to the perplexity of the situation. The police conducted a thorough investigation on the property for several days before ultimately closing the case, leaving many questions unanswered. To put the Las Vegas incident into context, a declassified annual report report from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence revealed that the US government has received over 510 UFO reports between late 2004 and mid-2022. The Las Vegas occurrence contributes to this expanding body of mysterious and unexplained events, further fueling ongoing interest and speculation regarding the nature of these unidentified entities and their potential origins. The government's newfound acknowledgement of a significant number of UFO reports underscores a broader pattern of heightened public awareness and reporting of unusual aerial phenomena. The looming mystery of what exactly transpired in Las Vegas on that very strange and very unsettling night lingers, leaving the local community and the broader public in impatient anticipation of potential revelations about the true nature of these large unidentified entities. Number 2. Rendlesham Forest Incident. The Rendlesham Incident was a series of unexplained lights being sighted near Rendlesham Forest in Suffolk, England. The first sighting occurred in the early morning on December 26, 1980, when a security patrol saw lights descending into the nearby forest. He originally thought it was a fallen aircraft, but upon entering the forest to investigate, they witnessed a glowing object that was metallic in appearance with colored lights. As they continued to approach the object, it appeared to be moving among the trees and caused the animals on a nearby farm to go into a frenzy. The police were called, but the police reported that the lights could only be seen from a lighthouse miles away on the coast. The next morning, servicemen found small impressions on the ground in a triangular pattern, along with burn marks and broken branches. The local police investigated the impressions and rationalized it to be an animal. On the 28th of December, the Deputy Base Commander, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt, visited the site with servicemen early in the day. They conducted radiation readings in the triangle and in the surrounding area using standard US military radiation survey meters. They also detected a small burst over half a mile away from the landing site. On this night, the lights were seen again. 3 star-like lights were in the sky, 2 north and 1 south, about 10 degrees above the horizon. Halt actually recorded the events on a microcassette recorder, and the transcription is available publicly. He described the lights as red sun-like light, adding, "It's like the pupil of an eye looking at you, winking, and the flash is so bright to the star scope that, it almost burns your eye." The men actually drew diagrams of what the lights looked like, showing how they appeared. The drawings paired with the tapes creates a very well-documented sighting, so it's strange that no official explanations have been made about it. The lights have been attributed by astronomers as natural debris that was burning up over southern England during the time of the sightings, but still, people are very skeptical of this explanation, as no meteors were predicted to be visible from southern England at this time. I mean, come on, that is suspicious. Astronomers love to tell people when there's an astral phenomenon occurring. I mean, they actually never stop mentioning them. How many times have you heard, "It's a meteor shower tonight"? A lot, because people always know. Why would this incident be the outlier? Number 1, Roswell. The Roswell incident is generously and fairly credited as a pivoting point for the culture surrounding aerial phenomenons today. In 1947, an object crash-landed on ranch land in Roswell, New Mexico. Mac Brazel and his son were driving across their land when they came across the wreckage. Brazel described the scene as a large area of bright wreckage made up of rubber strips, tinfoil, and rather tough paper and sticks. Perplexed by the strange assortment of items that had randomly appeared, Brazel decided to take the items into the police. The object that crashed had several crash sites. Others who claim to have seen the object crash land in different locations say that they saw small humanoid creatures leaving the ship, running away from the wreckage. About a week after the crash, Brazel had been able to collect most of the wreckage, so he drove into Roswell. Brazel brought the items to Sheriff George Wilcox, who ended up being just as confused as Brazel was regarding the origin of the materials. The sheriff decided to contact the commander of Roswell Army's Air Forces. The news worked itself up the chain of command, eventually reaching an intelligence officer named Major Jesse Marcel. Marcel traveled to the crash sites and retrieved the remainder of the wreckage. Then Marcel provided a public statement for the newspapers. The intelligence office of the 509th Bombardment Group at Roswell Army Airfield announced at noon today that the field has come into the possession of a flying saucer. Pilot Kenneth Arnold also confirmed the existence of the saucer, claiming that he too had seen a flying object. Only days later, the news ran rampant with flying saucer headlines. The Air Force released a statement claiming that the object was merely a weather balloon, but in 1978, Marcel revealed that the claim of it being a weather balloon was a hoax meant to distract the public. He speculated that the debris' origin was not of this world. Public speculation exploded with hundreds of theories as to what was found that day. To this day, the Air Force continues to deny that the debris was extraterrestrial. New theories regarding the Roswell incident continue to be talked about, making it one of, of, if not the most popular UFO sighting to date.
Number 5. El Cajon, California. Our first clip today comes from the beautiful Californian city of El Cajon. Let's take a look at something strange that was spotted in the sky that's got the locals talking. This clip was captured and posted to Reddit by user Exporius. Oh, Exporius, that's fun to say. Say that at home if you haven't yet. Let's take a look at the clip first. Pretty interesting stuff, huh? Definitely something that makes you want to take another glimpse. When it was posted to Reddit, Exporius sounded off in the comments and offered a little bit of context as to what was going on. Here it is. 3 black spheres appeared overhead my apartment complex in the afternoon in El Cajon, California. The objects were unlike balloons, rotating around each other and seemingly unaffected by the wind. My partner, who you can hear talking in the background about UFOs, agrees that the shapes were moving in an odd formation relative to the wind. They were also flickering in the sky, disappearing in and out of visibility, not at all like the metallic reflection of a Mylar balloon. The objects disappeared shortly after my girlfriend made me stop filming to go inside. Suddenly, the spheres whipped around about 90 degrees and vanished. Oh, his girlfriend made him stop filming to go inside. Imagine we had the perfect evidence of UFOs, but somebody had to stop filming because they had to go unload the dishwasher. Anyway, Exporius finishes off by saying, "Very strange. I have no idea what these are." And neither do we. This clip garnered a lot of attention in the subreddit where it was posted, getting people chatting about what it could possibly be, although with anything like this there were a fair share of skeptics. Some dismissed the sighting as being nothing more than a flock of birds moving in on a particularly strange triangular fashion, while others suspected it could have been drone. What is a bird if not a feathery drone? So what do we think, my fair viewers? Something worth writing a UAP report on, or was this something a real bird brain posted? You let me know down below, okay? And while I've got you, if you're not already subscribed to Top 5 Scary, now would be a great time to fix that mistake. We got loads of UFO clips. I mean, we're on part 7 of this series. You know we got UFO clips. Storytelling, cryptids, monsters, mythologies, terrible stories, stories too good to be real, and stories too real to be good. Stay subscribed, don't miss a scream, but keep watching this video first, okay? Moving on. Number 4, from a pilot. Our next clip was posted by the History Channel, of all places. I guess technically if a UFO did appear to us, that would be like a pretty big part of history, right? Still, it's funny to me that that's where I'm getting my UFO clips these days. This clip isn't some blurry footage shot from somebody staring right up at the sun. Instead, we have a front row seat from a B-320 pilot's cockpit as a pilot over a commercial flight in Colombia saw something truly bizarre that they couldn't explain. Why don't you take a look at this cuboid UAP that looks out of this world. Let's roll the clip. A metallic looking object that's got a bizarre shape, almost looking like somebody's rolling a giant D20 through the sky, comes hurtling into frame. When you slow it down, it does look a lot like a flying cube, so if you were worried about the Borg coming to assimilate us, this might just be that proof confirming that. Now, in the excerpt from the History Channel clip, they theorized that what this could be a probe or a drone of some type for an alien civilization sending out a first wave of scouts before the rest of the party gets here, and this strange object could be one of those drones, trying to sneak on by but being caught on camera. Now, not everyone is as convinced as our friends at the History Channel. More than a few viewers have thought that what that could have been caught in the sky here is nothing more than a balloon, and some strange angles are making it look a lot more alien and cuboid than it really is. So what do we think? Scouts from another civilization coming in to suss out the situation? Or is this clip posted by people who are just full of hot air? I'm getting punny today. Number 3, Arizona. Our next sighting comes to us again from our favorite friend for strange clips of flying objects. You know it and I know it, it's the UFO subreddit. Seeing as how we're on part 7, I think I owe the moderators and users of the UFO subreddit a top 5 Congressional Medal of Honor. There you go. Anyway, this next clip posted by user Giancarlo the Great showcases a UAP caught on camera in Phoenix, Arizona that's got everybody sounding off. Let's roll the clip and see if you can stay silent watching this. Now, it's hard not to see what the original poster was talking about because I'm pretty sure you saw the flashing lights floating eerily in the sky like a beacon. What's kind of funny is that the same day, from the same location, Phoenix, Arizona, another user on Reddit unintentionally recorded another angle of the exact same sighting, or at the very least the same object on a similar trajectory. And in that clip, we can see it pulsating a bit. It looks a little more circular from here. In fact, several commenters across both of these videos commented that they all saw the has in Phoenix. So it's possible that this sighting is bigger than we think, or that there's just not much going on in Phoenix, Arizona. No offense, I've never been, I'm sure it's lovely. I'm not sure which is more likely or which scares me more. Now, I've got to admit, this one's got me raising my eyebrows just a little bit because I can't quite figure it out just yet. Some users on Reddit suggested that they thought what this could be is something being dragged in the sky, with some users suggesting that it looked like something was tethered and this could be a custom drone or a nighttime kite, which, side note, was not something I knew anyone did, but I've since learned is kind of a hobby. I'm now wondering how many years of UFO footage has all just been kites with like LED straps attached to the back of them, because I'm starting to suspect it was most of them. So what do we think? Aliens? Kites? Either is possible, really. Number 2, Metapod. Our next clip comes to us from Instagram with the pretty funny caption, "Metapod strikes again." You'll see what I mean in a moment. But I will say, this is basic stuff. Everybody knows Metapod can only use harden. 0 out of 10. Go back. Do a lap. Now, we've featured clips from this particular UAP or style of UAP before on this channel, maybe the brand or whoever manufactures these craft, so it's fitting that the caption is "Metapod strikes again." Well, this particular thing baffled me the last time I talked about it, and it's baffling us again all the way here, so here it is one more time. Let's roll that clip for you. Now, a quick aside for my viewership who aren't big gamers out there, Metapod is a Pokemon that's shaped like a cocoon, and I can definitely see where this Metapod comparison comes from. That's definitely what this creature looks like some sort of strange cocoon. It seems organic to me in a very weird way, you know? As if unlike a lot of other UAP sightings, this thing is something that's actually alive on its own. It almost looks like it moves a little, you know? Like it wiggles just a little bit, like it's got a little jiggle to it. Are you following me with this? I also feel like it looks a bit like a floating beehive. Maybe this thing is kind of like a Rorschach test. You see what you want to see. Now, the fact that this thing keeps popping up with different sightings definitely has me very curious as to what it could possibly be. Also, if there's any Rick and Morty fans out there, I swear this thing has like the exact same silhouette as the giant head that appears in the Get Swifty episode that asks humanity to show it what it's got. Maybe that's why this thing keeps coming back. We haven't shown it what we've got yet, and nobody has performed Get Swifty for it. So maybe get on that, and maybe we can appease this thing. Number 1, Sean Cahill. Our final clip for us today comes to us from Sean Cahill, a UAP enthusiast and a former Navy serviceman who is a veteran of 20 years, who in his retirement has become a decently big name in the UFO community as we set out there to look for the truth. Why don't you take a look at this clip he posted on Twitter and see if you can spot the UAP hovering up above. They'll circle it in red too, don't worry. Now we get a beautiful look at a mountain range, looks like a Windows XP background, and something very strange floating slowly moving across the horizon. Something flat looking like a disc, looking like a real classic flying saucer looking thing straight out of the movies. Now, at first glance, it's definitely got my attention because it's not often you get UAP clips that are this broad in daylight and this clear in view. I'm used to somebody shaking it around like they put their phone in the drying machine. Now, as always with stuff like this, I like to call attention to the more skeptical side of things because I think that gives us an air of credibility. More than a few people on Reddit suggested that this really could be something as uninteresting as just a plane moving slowly through the horizon, and looking at something like a short takeoff and landing private plane, it definitely seems like it would be very easy to make that mistake, but I personally want to believe that a 20-year Navy vet would know what a civilian plane would look like.
In 5th place, we have the Hudson Valley UFO wave. So between 1982 and 1986, around 5,000 eyewitnesses reported seeing V-shaped UFOs with multicolored lights flying near the Hudson Valley, just about an hour north of New York City. So the first sighting was made on New Year's Eve of 1982 by a retired police officer in Kent, New York, who originally thought that he was observing an airplane. And hey, it's New Year's Eve. Make of that what you will. When the craft passed above his home, he realized that it was moving far too slowly and quietly to actually be a plane. So while most of the eyewitnesses described a slow-moving V-shaped UFO, other reports said the object appeared to be circular and capable of moving at fantastic speeds or disappearing altogether. Dennis Sant, a husband and father of 5 who had worked in local government for 17 years, described it as a very large object made of very dark gray, metallic, and made no noise. The lights were iridescent incandescent, bright, and stood out in the sky, and they were three-dimensional. It looked like a city of lights that hung in the sky. So Dennis and his family followed them until he was consumed by what he described as a feeling of fright. A few miles away, traffic screeched to a halt on Interstate 84 as a mysterious object hovered overhead. A police cruiser stopped in the middle of the road to radio in about this UFO. Ed Burns, a computer engineer and senior manager for IBM, was driving home on the Taconic Parkway and claimed that his radio was suddenly consumed by static. And when he leaned over to, adjust the dial, he saw the triangular ship. He said that the back had to be as large as a football field, and once again, there was no noise. On that same night, eyewitness reports indicated that the object was slowly moving north over the Hudson River Valley. 13 others saw it in Newcastle, and about 10 minutes later, Ed Burns and at least 20 motorists saw it near Millwood. 10 minutes after that, the phones began ringing off the hook in the police station at Yorktown, and didn't stop for hours. During another sighting, the UFO hovered about 30 feet above the Indian Point nuclear plant. The security supervisor was considering, kabooming the craft down before it disappeared from sight. A home video showing a light formation above Brewster, New York was taken on June 10th of 1984 by local resident Bob Pazzulli. The footage has since been looked at by a number of photographic experts who indicate that the movement of the object on the video seems to be one rigid object and not individual objects. Now, despite eyewitness reports and photographic evidence, the phenomenon was never properly explained. In third place, we have the Go Faster video. So this video, uploaded by the UFO Investigative Group to the STARS Academy of Arts and Sciences in March of 2018, was secured by a Freedom of Information Act request to the US government. So this video was taken in 2015 just off the East Coast by an FA-18F fighter jet, you try saying that 5 times fast, using the aircraft's onboard Raytheon AN/ASQ-228 Advanced Targeting Forward-Looking Infrared Pod, also known as ATF-LIR. I'll pretend I know what a lot of that means scientifically speaking, but a lot of big plain words. I know myself too well, I'll trip over my tongue if I try saying that more than once, so we're just gonna call it ATF. So ATF is designed to allow pilots to track, target, and destroy targets on the ground at ranges of up to 40 miles. It should be noted though that it's good at spotting, but not like engaging aerial targets. Alright, the video. So it's been nicknamed Go Fast by To The Stars, and it starts by explaining the various numbers and symbols that appear in the footage. Stuff like, the aircraft's altitude, which was around 25,000 feet, and the fact that the ATF was pointed ahead and to the left of the Super Hornet. The reader also explains that the aircraft was traveling at 252 knots and in a 5-degree turn, and the unknown object was approximately 4.4 nautical miles away. The video shows the Super Hornet's weapons system operator repeatedly trying to acquire the UFO with the ATF's built-in auto tracker, which apparently can pick out an object and keep it centered on camera. After 2 tries, the weapons system officer, or WSO, shouts, "Whoa, got it," to which another person, assumed to be the pilot, says, "Woohoo, whoa, what the bleep is that thing?" the pilot asks. The WSO later says, "Oh my gosh, dude," to which the pilot replies, "Whoa, what is that, man?" Now I know, this is where you skeptics start asking, but Alexa, how is this unknown object different from weird government aircrafts we don't know about? Well, alright. Allow me to explain, skeptics, since that's the whole point of this. For starters, the UFO does not have any kind of hot exhaust trail that would be emitted by a conventional turbine engine, so it doesn't really emit any heat on the sensor. And secondly, it doesn't have any visible wings or fins. So through my research, I've learned that even cruise missiles, such as the American Tomahawk or Russian Caliber, have small winglets that should be visible, and other missiles such as the Maverick anti-task missile still have stubby little fins. This UFO appears oval-like and does not appear to fly nose first in the direction of any kind of travel. So once again, this was a video hidden and released by the government. Hello, side-eye. In second place, we have the Westall UFO. So time to travel back to 2 days before my mom was born, so around 11 a.m. on April 6th of 1966, when an unexplained flying object flew around Westall High School in Melbourne, Australia. So Mr. Greenwood was teaching his Year 9 science class when a girl ran into the classroom, shouting that there were flying saucers hovering over the football field. The teacher and his students rushed outside, where they joined around 500 students, teachers, and locals. What he saw was an unidentified aerial craft that was the shape one would see if you had, like a saucer, slightly tipped on its side so that you saw the middle section as thicker than the ends. According to him, it performed several different actions, including hovering at different times, able to accelerate and disappear out of sight before reappearing somewhere else. He said the craft was hovering 50 meters above the crowd, about 1 to 200 meters away, and clearly visible. More than 200 students and several teachers watched the UFO as it descended into a nearby field. Eyewitnesses watched the craft hovering around the school for approximately 20 minutes, and described it as being being a gray saucer-shaped object that was about twice the size of a family car. Oh, and the Air Force reported that they were not in the airspace at the time of the incident. Just saying. In first place, we have the Cash-Landrum incident. So on December 29th of 1980, Betty Cash, Vicki Landrum, and Colby Landrum were driving home from a night out when they saw 23 unidentified helicopters surrounding a huge diamond-shaped object that was hovering above the trees. So this all started around 9 p.m. while they were driving on an isolated 2-lane road in dense woods and saw a light above some trees, but originally dismissed it as an airplane approaching Houston Intercontinental Airport. Hey, as someone who used to live near Pearson Airport, trust me, you'll learn to ignore planes. A few minutes later, they saw what they believed to be the same light as before, but now it was closer and brighter. They said that it came from a huge diamond-shaped object which hovered at about treetop level, and that its base was expelling flame and emitting significant heat. So Vicky told Betty to stop the car, fearing they would be burned if they got closer, and both ladies originally got out of the car to examine the object, but Colby was terrified. So Vicky returned to the car to comfort him, while Betty stayed outside and was mesmerized by the bizarre sight. The object has been described as intensely bright and a dull metallic silver, once again shaped like a huge upright diamond, about the size of a water tower, with its top and bottom cut off so that they were flat rather than pointed. Small blue lights ringed the center, and periodically over the next few minutes, flames shot out of the bottom, flaring outward to create the effect of a large cone. So picture that. Every time the fire dissipated though, the UFO floated a few feet more down the road. But when the flames blasted out again, the object kept moving. So Betty said she had to use her coat to protect her hand from being burned by the door handle when she finally got back into the car. When she touched the dashboard, Vicky claimed her hand pressed into the softened vinyl, leaving an imprint that was evident weeks later. Investigators did cite it as proof of their account, but sadly the photos have not made their way to the internet. The group said that the object then ascended over the treetops and rose higher in the sky, and that a group of helicopters approached it, surrounding it in tight formation. Like I mentioned before, the ladies counted 23 helicopters and later identified some of them as ones used by military forces worldwide. With the road now clear, Betty says she drove on, claiming to see glimpses of the object and the helicopters receding into the distance. And they said it lasted about 20 minutes. A Dayton police officer, Detective Lamar Walker, and his wife also claimed to have seen helicopters near the same area. The witnesses claimed that after the UFO and helicopters left, Betty took the other two home and then, went to bed for the evening. But that night, they reportedly all experienced similar symptoms, although Betty to a much greater degree. They claimed that they suffered from nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, generalized weakness, and a burning sensation in their eyes. Also, really bad sunburn, which, ouch. Betty developed painful blisters on her skin, lost clumps of hair, and was unable to walk. She was released from a local hospital after 12 days, although her condition wasn't super better, and she later returned to hospital for another 15 days. The Landrums' health was somewhat better, although they did suffer from that lingering weakness, skin sores, and hair loss. The duo of ladies sued the US government for $20 million, and testimony of officials from NASA, the Air Force, and the Army and Navy were given. But on August 21st of 1986, a US District Court judge dismissed their case, noting that they hadn't really proved that the helicopters were associated with the US federal government, and that military officials had testified that the US Armed Forces didn't really have a large diamond-shaped aircraft in their possession. And seeing as no government agency whatsoever possessed an aircraft resembling this UFO, the case was dismissed. Well then, thanks for proving that this craft, whatever the heck it was, wasn't of earthly origin. And that brings us to the end of today's installment, and if I missed anything egregious, I'd recommend checking out part 1 before, letting me know down in the comments. I swear, every time I talk about UFOs, I learn something new.
Number 5, Bonita Springs, Florida. Our first clip today is going to be coming to us from the UFO subreddit, because really, where else? The UFO subreddit is doing more to get alien content out in the open than any world government is willing to, so if they're not gonna do it, we gotta let the guys online pick up the slack. This clip was posted to us from user Marcus1640, who had this to say. Well, let's roll the clip though first, I think. I was working in my garage, which is about 100 feet west of this camera location, doing the things you do to keep the wife happy. The sky's clear, and out the corner of my eyes, I see this bright ball getting bigger and bigger. It was really bright and then faded away fast. It wasn't a meteor, and I checked planes live, nothing was close. I'm in Florida, so this stuff is pretty common, but this was weird, and no noise. Now in the clip it can be a bit hard to see, so I'll guide you through this, definitely as well because it isn't black and white, which does take away some of it. But we see a bright light up in the sky that comes into frame, hovers around a little bit, it kind of seems like it's scoping out the situation, and then flies out of frame after, I guess, it decides there's nothing happening. Now OP said that the ball of light when he saw it come into frame was this shining, radiant orange, impressively bright in the night sky. Obviously, that doesn't translate super well, so we have to use our imagination just a little bit, you know, close your eyes and imagine it's bright and orange. Wow, what a lovely shade you used. Now some speculation in the comment section of Reddit had people wondering if possibly this could be something like space debris burning up on re-entry, or a satellite reflecting the sunlight down to Earth for but a second. Pretty difficult to tell from here, but that's the way it goes with the paranormal sometimes. Nothing can ever be so easy, and would we really want it to be? I think we should have to fight for it just a little bit. Fight to get the truth out there. And as usual, my friends, if you're looking for more UFO sightings and content, I have a pretty good idea of where you can find more of it. We've got 8 parts worth of UFO sightings from 2023 alone. If you haven't clicked on through yet, you gotta catch up. And if UFO videos aren't your jam and you clicked on this out of accident, we've got loads more scary content for you, ranging from the macabre and mysterious to the outright horrific and hard to believe. Click on through and find something to scream at, and subscribe and help us out. Mean a lot from Old Tay. Number 4, the Netherlands. Our next sighting is going to come to us from the Netherlands. Seems even aliens can't resist hitting up Amsterdam. Let's roll the clip first to get your eyes on it, and then we're going to take a quick listen to the description posted by its witness, who's remained anonymous. Just before 6 p.m. in front of the cinema in Scheveningen? There's no way I'm pronouncing that right. I noticed this object. While viewing this object, it almost did not move at all. In the entire 20 minutes I was there, the object floated very slowly once to the left and right, and then twice up and down. The shape remained exactly the same throughout. The size remained the same regardless of whether or not this object moved up, down, left, or to the right, and there were no lights to be seen on it. Everything was completely black, and it looked like there was a smudge in the sky. In terms of height, this is unfortunately impossible for me to estimate. But there were several people who, like me, took photos and videos. The object was visible for about 20 minutes. Now the video we've included was pretty short. In fact, those 10 seconds were all that was in that video anyway. But when that video was posted to Reddit, it was corroborated by a few other sources who had all seen the same thing and posted similar videos. Meaning, this isn't some CGI trick, or if it is, a lot of people are in on this conspiracy. So what do we think this could possibly be? The usual suspect of it being a strange blimp or a balloon is always a possibility, and I've seen enough of these videos now that I'm always instantly like, this is probably just a balloon, isn't it? But it's still very, very weird. So let me know down below what you think. I love hearing from you guys about what you think on all this. Number 3, Phoenix, Arizona. This next clip was first posted to TikTok, but since being posted there has been making the rounds across the web since it's got UAP enthusiasts like yours truly peering their eyes open and gluing them to the screen. Let's take a look and you all tell me what you think, okay? Now whatever is going on in there is definitely odd. That much I can say with absolute certainty. There's something up there in the clouds that's floating above almost menacingly, maybe that's just me, and it's flashing a light brightly, and I swear it almost looks like it's turning invisible over and over again. The thing seems to be slowly moving across the sky in a way that makes it look like it's scanning the surroundings. Naturally, commenters went a bit wild with this clip, speculating like I am now. Some suggested that this could be something like hyper advanced military technology being tested out in the field, which would definitely be exciting, and honestly, more probable than not, I feel like there's a lot the government don't tell you about what they're working on. The CIA themselves even said that they think most alien sightings in the 50s and 60s were just reports of the U-2 spy craft. Others suggested that this could be something as dull as a civilian drone being flown around in the sky with a lighting rig attached for no other purpose than to drum up attention and get some TikTok views. But do you really think someone would do that? Someone would go on the internet and just lie for attention? I don't know. Meanwhile, more than a few people on the original TikTok were very convinced that this was a proper UAP alien sighting and could have been an alien visitor caught on tape. Comment section, I'm going to toss this one over to you as always. Me, personally, I'm a little inclined to believe this might be a boring one. This could just be a drone, just because I'm not so sure that our alien visitors would give themselves away so easily by attaching lights to their crafts and letting themselves get identified so easily, but maybe that's what they want us to think. So I'm curious what you all think it could be. Number 2, Scotland. This next clip is going to be coming to us from Scotland. I like when we have UFOs all across the globe, you know, it makes it seem like we're all in this together. It was originally posted on the UFO subreddit as well. I'll roll an excerpt of the clip and then I'll walk you through the context that the user provided additionally with it. Let's roll it. Okay. Pretty cool stuff, right? So the user posted, there are 2 objects in the sky moving at a steady speed. They were not massive, I reckon about the size of a Jeep, maybe twice that size at most. Twice the size of a Jeep is pretty big, I think. Definitely smaller than a plane, but a lot bigger than drones. They had no lights, no wings, no windows, and no propellers. They also made no noise. These objects looked much bigger in real life than they did in the video. On film, they appear to be black, but in real life, I would say they had a color similar to a cloud. Not quite white, but not quite gray either. They looked to be spheroid or tic tac shaped, and they looked solid and metallic. They seemed like they had smoke coming out of them sometimes, but it was hard to know if that was just them moving through the clouds, causing an effect that looked like smoke. In terms of height, they were flying about twice the height of a typical city building, definitely lower than a plane would have. Also, may I just say, as someone who watches a lot of UFO clips, to be able to find one that is clear as day, filmed on a high quality camera, recorded for a good amount of time, and also had a lot of context provided, put this thing in a museum. That is 1 in a billion. I don't even care if these things aren't aliens. Those 3 qualities are more exciting than aliens to me. Now, when this clip was posted to Reddit, there were a few people speculating that these could be balloons, despite the original poster pointing out that they thought the things were emanating smoke, so it's, no pun intended, a bit up in the air what these things might be. We get reports of cuboid or tic tac like UFOs a lot in this video series, which does make me think there's something suspicious going on if so many people report on similar objects like that, but we still don't have any answers. I hope we get there someday. I know the truth is out there. Number 1, Hollywood. Our final entry for this video is going to come to us from Hollywood. Even aliens like the tourist hotspots. Let's roll the clip and I'll add the commentary and speculation afterwards, because this one's a good one. There's a reason I saved it for the last. Now, the original poster and uploader stated, "We noticed this huge object in the sky just sitting there by the Hard Rock Casino in Hollywood, Florida." Whoa, 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 stop the track, stop the video. Are there 2 Hollywoods? I'm a Canadian, so I don't know these things. Is Florida in LA? You guys have to fix that for me. Okay, moving back. Anyway, the object blurred itself out when we started recording it. It was huge. It didn't do much, but it just sort of sat there and blurred itself out. I have tried to Google to find out what it was, but I'm coming up with nothing. It was my husband, my 2 kids, and I who witnessed this together. Now, I gotta admit, this is one of the most compelling bits of UFO evidence I have seen in a minute. Not to throw the other 4 clips under the bus, they're all very lovely in their own way, and I hold them all in my heart dearly, but this one, oh baby, this is the golden ticket. I'm sure there might be a reasonable explanation for it, but on first glance, this thing looks like the definitive flying saucer. Like if you close your eyes and imagine a flying saucer, you start imagining this. It even looks like if you're watching this thing with eagle eyes that the saucer at one point cloaks, and the original poster mentions that it was blurring itself out when they started recording. Very interesting to me. That would explain a lot over the years if aliens have been specifically constructing their crafts to blur them out from being recorded by cell phones. I mean, imagine aliens keep coming to Earth just for like vacation and they're getting so annoyed that they're trying to just have some fun, be tourists, and people cannot stop taking photos of them, so they're blurring out their crafts. So what do we think, my ghouls and goblins? Is this recording simply too good to be true? Is this movie magic and CGI up there? You do have to wonder why this footage didn't set the internet ablaze, because that looks about as flying saucery as anything could possibly get. Of course, Maybe the men in black and the higher ups are trying to scrub this clip from the internet and don't want you to see, and maybe I just got the whole channel in trouble.
Number 5. The Chicago O'Hare Airport Sightings. So at around 4:15 p.m. on November 7th of 2006, federal authorities at Chicago O'Hare International Airport received a report that a group of 12 airport employees were witnessing a metallic saucer-shaped craft hovering over gate C-17. The object was first spotted by a ramp employee who was pushing back United Airlines Flight 446, which was departing Chicago for Charlotte, North Carolina. Now the employee made the flight crew aware of the mysterious object above their aircraft, and this unknown craft was also witnessed by the pilots, airline management, and mechanics. So none of the air traffic controllers saw the object, and it didn't show up on radar. But witnesses described it as completely silent, 6 to 24 feet in diameter, in dark gray in color, so kind of like my vehicle. Several independent witnesses outside of the airport also saw the object. One described a disc-shaped craft hovering over the airport, stating that it was obviously not clouds, since the object flew through the clouds at high velocity, leaving a clear blue hole in the cloud layer, which closed itself shortly after the events. According to the Chicago Tribune's John Hilkovich, the disc was visible for approximately 5 minutes and was seen by close to a dozen United Airlines employees, ranging from pilots to supervisors, who heard chatter on the radio and raced out to view it. Both United Airlines and the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA for short, initially denied that they had any information on the O'Hare UFO sighting until the Chicago Tribune newspaper filed a Freedom of Information Act request. The FAA then ordered an internal review of air traffic communications tapes to comply with the Chicago Tribune request, which subsequently uncovered a call by the United supervisor to an FAA manager in the airport tower concerning the UFO sighting. Now, if I haven't made myself obvious by now, I hate cover-ups, so I'm glad the Freedom of Information request was rightfully granted. UFO investigators have argued that the FAA's refusal to look into the incident contradicts the agency's mandate to investigate possible security breaches at American airports, such as in this case. The National Aviation Reporting Center on Anomalous Phenomena published a 155-page report on the sighting and has called for a government inquiry in improved energy sensing technologies. Because if an airborne object can hover for several minutes over a busy airport but not be registered on radar or seen visually from the control tower, it creates a potential threat to human safety. Number 3. The 2004 series of spottings. So on November 14th of 2004, Lieutenant Alex D. Trick was piloting her FA-18 Super Hornet when she observed an oblong object hovering over the water. It leapt into motion, skimming 500 to 1,000 feet over the waves at around 500 knots. Now the fighter jet's onboard radar couldn't detect the object, but Alex's weapon system operator in the rear seat witnessed it as well. Alex has quoted her recollection as, "We were trying to call out what we were seeing to each other and to make sure everybody else is seeing it. It's moving so erratically and so fast that our voices, our minds, and then even our radio calls can't keep up with it." So here's the thing. The majority of credible modern-day UFO sightings can be credited to those that work in the Air Force, and if I haven't mentioned it already, it should be noted that military pilots are trained to see all the aircrafts by their shapes, paint schemes, unit insignia. They're trained to recognize this stuff and know it off the top of their head. On one of the other Super Hornets that launched behind Alex was Lieutenant Commander Chad Underwood, who was able to capture the object on an infrared camera. It's around 40 feet long, round and smooth, and quickly received the nickname Tic Tac. Now all of the footage that the US government has confirmed as authentic and unexplained speak for itself, since I know we have the clip handy. And around this time, starting on November 10th to be exact, Gary Voorhees, a petty officer on the USS Princeton guided missile cruiser, had been reporting apparitions on his radar screens in the same area. Triple checking his equipment before he made his report, and being the main technician responsible for the equipment, along with having 6 years of Navy experience at the time, he described what he was seeing as impossible. In just seconds, an object had dropped to the waterline from 60,000 feet, hovered, and then zipped away at high velocity, making right angle turns that were quoted as being confounding and defying gravity, not alphaba. The objects returned for the next week, with Voorhees quoted as saying, "I was able to see it on the horizon during the night and during the day, and it was definitely a glowing object. Could I tell you for 100% certainty what it was we were tracking?" Now footage of this event used to exist, with Gary being able to vividly describe his memories, but has since been scrubbed from the internet. I'm not surprised, you shouldn't be either. Things tend to just go poof when they're a little too true. Number 2, the Washington Flap. At 11:40 p.m. on Saturday, July 19th of 1952, Edward Nugent, an air traffic controller at the Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport, try saying that 5 times fast, spotted 7 objects on his radar. The objects were around 24 kilometers south-southwest of the city, not following any established flight paths, and no known aircrafts were in the area. Now his superior, Harry Barnes, a senior air traffic controller at said airport, watched the objects on the radar scope, later writing that they knew immediately that a very strange situation existed. What do you know? The movements were completely radical compared to those of an ordinary aircraft. Harry had 2 controllers check Edward's radar, and they found it was working normally. He then called National Airport's radar-equipped control tower, and the controllers there said that they had unidentified blips on their radar screen and saw a hovering bright light in the sky that was moving at speeds they couldn't understand. Now at this point, other objects appeared in all sectors of the radar scope, and when they moved over the White House and the United States Capitol, Harry then called the Andrews Air Force Base, which was located around 10 miles away. Although they reported they had no unusual objects on their radar, and Airman Sue called the base's control tower to report the sighting of a strange object. Airman William Brady, who was in the tower, saw an object which appeared to be like an orange ball of fire, trailing a tail, saying it was unlike anything he had ever seen before. Where have I heard that phrase today? Now, as he tried to alert the other personnel in the tower, the strange object took off at an unbelievable speed. On one of National Airport's runways, pilot S.C. Pierman was waiting in the cockpit of his plane for permission to take off, and after spotting what he believed to be a meteor, he was told that the control tower's radar had detected unknown objects closing in on his position. Now, he observed 6 objects that he described as white, tailless, fast-moving lights over a 14-minute period. He was in radio contact with Harry during his sighting, and Harry later reported that each sighting coincided with a pip that could be seen near his plane. When he reported the lights streaked off at a high speed and disappeared on their scope. Meanwhile, back at the Andrews Air Force Base, Staff Sergeant Charles Davenport observed an orange-red light to the south where the light would appear to stand still, then make an abrupt change in direction and altitude, with the phenomena happening over several times. Now, at one point, both radar centers at National Airport and the radar at Andrews Air Force Base were tracking an object hovering over a radio beacon. The object vanished in all 3 radar centers at the same time. At 3 a.m., shortly before 2 United States Air Force F-94 Starfire jet fighters from the Newcastle Air Force Base in Delaware arrived over Washington, all of the objects vanished from the radar at National Airport. However, when the jets ran low on fuel and left, the objects returned, which convinced Harry that the UFOs were monitoring radio traffic and behaving accordingly. The objects were last detected by radar at 5:30 a.m., and the government later tried dismissing the events of that day on a temperature blip. But those who were present have been adamant otherwise, and I'm gonna believe them. Number 1, the Aguadilla UAP. Jonathan Lace, spokesman for the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies, SCU for short, explained the organization believes the most compelling footage of anomalous activity ever was taken by a Homeland Security aircraft over Puerto Rico on April 25th of 2013. I'll let you folks make up your own minds in the comments, by the way. The video was captured at around 9:20 p.m. on that fateful day as an unknown object flew across the runway of the Rafael Hernandez Airport in Aguadilla and was caught on infrared camera by a U.S. Customs and Border Protection aircraft, the footage of which was leaked to SCU by an anonymous source. The eerie footage shows an object believed to be up to 5 feet in length, moving at speeds of up to 120 miles per hour, getting close to the ground before seemingly plunging into the ocean and splitting into 2. In a 50-page report, the SCU has made notes that no bird, no balloon, no aircraft, and no known drones have that capability. It also appears to not disturb the water when plunging beneath and then re-emerging from the surface, a phenomenon known as transmedium travel. SCU investigators said the object appears to be of unknown origin after spending 1,000 hours researching it. It is claimed the pilots of a DHC-8 turboprop spotted a red light over the ocean. They then contacted the control tower, who told them they did not know the identity of the object, and then the object's lights went out as it approached the shore. The plane then emerged from its thermal imaging camera. The plane then engaged its thermal imaging camera and went on to follow the UAP. The SCU report concluded by saying that the video is the best documentation of an unknown aerial and submerged nautical object exhibiting advanced technology ever seen. They have since called for the release of more data from the Pentagon, after the release of a lot of footage recently. And in their statement, the SCU said that they believe all government data regarding unidentified aerospace objects should be made available to the public to be openly investigated by the broader scientific community, provided that such data does not compromise sources or methods of collection. A full scientific investigation of such, information would be able to uncover valuable information relating to both national security and advancement of our understanding of physics, aerospace engineering, and our world. Here's to hoping the Pentagon listens someday and releases that footage. If I've said it once, I've said it a million times, but they really need to stop being so cagey about what they release. They really don't release information unless they're forced to. And while I hate sounding like a broken record, they need to do better. Number 5, Camp Wilson. So, we find ourselves in a truly remarkable moment as a new wave of UFO sightings takes center stage this year, and NASA can no longer afford to turn a blind eye to this unexplained phenomenon. Together, let's travel to the California desert, where an event unfolded that eerily echoes the famous 1997 Phoenix Lights incident. Now, if you're a fan of a channel, you've heard me talk about this before. If not, I've done plenty of other videos on it. Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp, known for their groundbreaking investigations, brought to light footage from April of 2021, filmed over 29 palms. This sighting is far from your typical blurry UFO footage. The object, described as a giant black triangular shape with lights on its edges, was captured from multiple angles by 6 videos, with the accompanying high-exposure photograph revealing even more detail. Witnesses, including over 50 U.S. Marines, were baffled by the object's sudden appearance, size, and behavior. Like I said before, the incident closely resembles the Phoenix Lights, where a massive triangular UFO was witnessed by thousands. It's important to note that the witnesses in this case aren't aren't your average civilians. They are trained military personnel, artillerymen, and mortarmen who have dealt with illumination rounds in various military aircraft. And their unanimous conclusion? This was unlike anything they had ever encountered. Specifically speaking, a mortarman serving at Camp Wilson during this incident spoke with Corbell and took a high exposure photo on his smartphone, which revealed the outline of, this object. It appears to be triangular, surrounded by lights spaced evenly around its edge in a V formation. Now, the mortarman, who was staying anonymous for safety reasons, described how one of his companions witnessed the object materialize from nowhere, saying, "One of my buddies was outside. He was looking at the sky and said it just kind of appeared out of nowhere. And we all came out and looked, and then slowly like 50 plus people started coming out and looking. Those lights appeared out of nowhere." Hey, he said it twice. He was adamant. He added that despite their military experience, none of the Marines could recognize the craft, and described their reaction as, you guessed it, baffled. Now, this man who filmed and photographed the object said, "If you look at the picture, you can see a black triangular shape. But the picture I took with the black triangular shape underneath the lights, it's definitely not any type of flare thing or illumination rounds." The witness said the apparent object remained stationary for approximately 10 minutes. But also, like, a Marine can be overheard on one of the videos saying that the triangle might have been in motion. Another Marine who saw it was serving as an artilleryman at the base when he saw the UFO. He firmly rejected any suggestions that the lights could be attributed to illumination rounds that could have been, sent off by artillery or any other mundane explanation he might have recognized, saying this was something none of us had ever seen before. It was a completely different color. The size and the illumination was different. He explained that when they fire off illumination rounds, it's one. You send it in the air and let it drop, and then you send off another one. This was like 5 next to each other, and they're kind of reddish, and our usual illumination rounds are a yellow-white color. The UFO's disappearance, just as illumination rounds were fired over it, adds a layer of mystery. Helicopters and a massive military convoy swiftly converged on the scene, leaving us to ponder what exactly was the government's involvement in all this. The parallels between this and Phoenix lights are undeniable. Both incidents feature large triangular objects with lights hovering over military facilities and then inexplicably vanishing. It's a real head scratcher. And as more details emerge, it's clear that NASA and other space agencies will need to address the growing body of evidence related to these unidentified aerial phenomena, which is something I've been saying for, how many months have I been here again? Number 3, Las Vegas aliens. Want to go gambling? One sighting this year in Las Vegas shows shadowy figures lurking somewhere in the shot. You can watch the creepy footage, and see if you can spot them. This video is one of many supposed UFO sightings in Vegas just this year, with another sighting around the incident even involving a police officer. But this particular video shows a group of people looking kind of nervous as they look into a backyard behind a house, with the camera zooming in on a forklift truck which has shadowy figures looking inside. Now, there was a fair bit of confusion over where the extraterrestrials are in the video, but many people insist they're there, including me. For example, one comment wrote, "You can see their face, eyes glowing in the first tractor. Then look at the second one, you can see it peeking. They're on like 8 to 10 feet tall." Another wrote, "Face a little left of the center of the circle, you can see the eyes and the mouth." So this video could offer fresh insight into the plethora of encounters and sightings that Vegas has recently seen. Police body cam footage emerged in June showing lights hovering in the sky before plummeting to the ground in a suspected UFO crash landing sighting. Officers carried out an extensive search following reports of the mysterious figures, with no new evidence being uncovered. However, an eyewitness to the suspected crash landing spoke out and claimed they witnessed the whole thing, and even stumbled across an extraterrestrial. "Apparently, my brother told me to look behind the forklift, and I did. I saw the alien creature. So when I saw it, it was a tall, skinny, lengthy creature," according to this YouTuber. "He was a gray-greenish color, and when I looked it in the eyes, my whole body just froze. Bear in mind, I'm looking at his whole body. He has weird-looking feet and a big face and eyes." Yes, there could be numerous theories about the existence of alien life. Many people believe that the universe is simply too big for us to be alone, no matter how unlikely life is to develop. And with that, one theory about why we haven't encountered aliens is that we are being snubbed by the galactic community, either because we're too stupid or too nasty, which fair. Another interesting idea is that intelligent life has evolved several times in the universe. However, the lifespan of an intelligent civilization compared to the universe as a whole is so relatively short that intelligent civilizations might never have coexisted, as one goes extinct before another emerges. Let me know in the comments what your theories are. Number 2, CBP footage. US Customs and Border Protection, so CBP for short, quietly released a slew of records and videos of UFOs in August of this year. Specifically, 12 videos, which were released in response to a Freedom of Information Act request, all of which allegedly contained footage of UFOs. Now, all the footage is available for download and is accompanied by a UFO report titled The Pentagon's UAP Task Force, Midi Security and Police Studies number 183. The report is an older document said to be written by Frank Milburn and had something to do with the Begin Sadat Center for Strategic Studies at the Bar Ilan University. It's unclear precisely what the report has to do with the videos, which are pretty stunning on their own. One of the videos clearly shows an orb flying in close proximity to a plane, to the point where it appears the orb is chasing the plane through the sky. It's clear the object isn't moving like any other craft known to man. Most of the footage appears to show some type of orb following an aircraft or flying over land, and in one particular video, we can see one of these super fast objects glide over what appears to be some type of urban development or military base. So what are these orbs? We have no idea. They've shown up consistently around Army installations and seem particularly fascinated with military activity. But other than that, we're still none the wiser as to what the heck is going on in our skies. The videos, some of which leaked already a few years back, have added fuel to the already raging fire of public discourse around flying saucers. One video in particular from 2013 shows an unidentifiable spot flying over an airport. The video is black and white and the footage is a little grainy, and the object, whatever it is, cruises over the airport at what appears to be a consistent rate, on a path taking it towards the ocean. It doesn't look at all that unusual. Like if you had already told me it was a bird or a small, UAP, I'd believe it. But the trouble starts when it gets near the water and appears to change shape. Shortly thereafter, the object seems to disappear, reappear, and then vanish for good. Some folks have interpreted that as the object having dipped beneath the water and emerged again, seemingly without losing any speed, which would be an impressive engineering achievement. But the video is so poor, it could just as easily be a digital artifact. Look, we've filled the space around us with a growing number of cameras and orbiting satellites, and they're recording all the time. More than that, we as humans are creating more technology, some of which isn't public knowledge. It was probably inevitable that we would start to catch things on camera that we can't explain. But there's a pretty big gap between, look at that weird thing, and I bet it came from across the stars. Still, there's some weird stuff going on in the sky, and hey NASA, we should probably devote some resources to figuring out what it is. With that in mind though, apparently Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Senator Mike Rounds introduced an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act, which would establish a structure for how and when UAP documents would be released to the public. So for example, for decades, many Americans have been fascinated by, what the heck's out there, and it's long past time they got some answers. The Americans, Canadians, everybody has a right to learn about technologies of unknown origins, non-human intelligence, and unexplainable phenomena. So apparently we're not only working to declassify what the government has previously learned about these, phenomena, but also to create a pipeline for future research to be made public. The bill requires that the government agencies turn over any UAP information they possess within 300 days of the act going into effect. All of which is to say we're at least like a year and a half out from seeing the extraterrestrial goods, so I'm gonna keep screaming at NASA if you don't mind. Number 1, George Arteaga footage. So over the last year, if you couldn't tell by today, unexplainable objects have been appearing in the sky, baffling a lot of folks, especially pilots. So some pilots believe that these fast orbiting objects aren't satellites or known military aircraft. Specifically, pilot George Arteaga remembers the event of what he claims was the most frightening experience of his life, where a circular object flew directly in front of his plane and whizzed directly by his window. He and his co-pilot Daniel were flying towards Medellin when they noticed the strange object. Now thankfully our pilot was able to turn his plane around and the unidentified object moved towards them. He also caught the first video of the stationary object. He was able to fly past the object, and he doesn't think it was a balloon because ideally the wind from the plane should have blown it away. The pilot believes that whatever he saw was, once again, not a balloon by any measure, as he was way too high up and it was way too cold for a balloon to float free. Soon after he posted the video on Twitter, it was uploaded by an Instagram handle named The Hood's Finest, and the video went viral and viewers speculated that what he saw was definitely a UFO. The pilot claims the aircraft was traveling at a speed of 300 kilometers an hour, with temperatures falling close to around 5. And in those conditions, mistaking a balloon or a bird for a UFO is very unlikely. Once again, hey NASA, wanna weigh in?
Number 5, Las Vegas. I think anybody watching these videos are pretty curious about UFOs, and we'd all want to see a UFO up close and personal, yeah? Well, what if you had one crash in your backyard? For this Las Vegas family, they might have had a close encounter right on their doorstep. No contact UFO, curbside delivery. A 911 call about non-human beings caught the attention of local police when on April 30th around midnight, a police officer's body cam recorded something streaking across the sky. This event was corroborated across California, Nevada, and Utah, according to the American Meteor Society, who probably answers the phone a lot about possible UFOs. And whatever it was that landed in this family's backyard, drone video showed a circular imprint in the dirt. When the family called, they claimed that there was an 8-foot person outside the craft and another inside it, with big eyes and looking at them. The caller described them as being 8 to 10 feet tall, looking like aliens with big eyes and a big mouth. Described them as being shiny and 100% not human. Now this wasn't just one random crazy caller, as the whole family living there said they saw the same thing. The caller said that they saw a shooting star and now there's something in the backyard. The officer responding said he saw something fall out of the sky too, which is why he was so curious about it. Representatives from Nellis Air Force Base said they weren't involved with this incident at all and suggested contacting the police. Interestingly though, a spokesperson for the Pentagon didn't comment at all in regards to this event. Now, isn't that interesting? And if you're looking for way more footage about UFOs, well, hey, you already know Top 5 Scary is the the place to be and then some. We got more UFOs than you could ever watch in a lifetime. So click subscribe, make sure you hit that little bell so you don't miss any of our scary videos from us, but do that at the end of this video, okay? Because I got 4 more pieces of UFO footage and evidence coming up for you right now. Number 4, Indonesia. Now here is an absolutely wild story for you. A Marine veteran is breaking a 14-year silence, claiming now that he and his squad mates saw a UFO while they were deployed in Indonesia in 2009 and were threatened into silence over it. Michael Herrera was a 20-year-old rifleman sent on a Navy humanitarian mission during the 2009 Sumatra earthquake and the tsunami that would devastate the region. He claims that his unit was guarding a supply drop outside the city of Padang, and his 6-man unit stumbled on something they were never meant to see: an octagonal, unknown aerial craft that seemed to be being used by some sort of clandestine government force. The Marine has an unmarked 4-year service record and showed text with a fellow witness who refused to speak out about this incident, worrying that discussing this incident would jeopardize his life. Herrera claimed that while guarding supplies from insurgents, they had weapons drawn on them by unmarked forces who had American accents, who told them off and demanded to know who they were. These unknown soldiers took the weapons from the Marines and took their IDs and began loading ammunition, large weapon cases, and other things from modified Ford F-350s onto a platform beneath a large octagonal craft, which would rise off the ground and shoot away at an incredible speed of up to 4,000 miles per hour. Now, for 14 years, Herrera did not say a word on this incident. It wasn't until the recent wave of UFO sightings and discussions that he felt like it was finally time to come forward about this event. Now, it doesn't really sound like a Marine to lie about something like this, especially not one with an unmarked 4-year service record like that. So what happened? Who were those guys? Officially sanctioned by the US government? Some sort of other organization entirely? The Men in Black? Is it fun to wildly speculate? It is. Number 3, David Grusch. David Grusch is a former intelligence officer, a US Air Force veteran who has got ties to UAP and UFO development and research, and you're probably going to be hearing this name a lot if you're interested in UFOs and all that stuff, because he's been blowing the whistle on possible UFO activity inside the US, boldly claiming that not only does the American government have proof of extraterrestrial life, but that the American government is storing alien crafts for their own purpose, which kind of makes sense of that last story if you think about it. They might be connected. Now, last week, Grusch made headlines when he claimed that the US government has concealed evidence of a non-human craft from Congress, and Grusch is trying to make people aware of this story. He claims that it's got an intact or partially intact craft, as well as he's got evidence of deceased agents and officers through crash site retrieval, explaining when you recover something that's landed or crashed, sometimes you encounter dead pilots, and believe it or not, it's true. Quote, does that mean that they have evidence of alien bodies? Deceased aliens? Now, Grusch claims that personally, he never saw any non-human evidence up close and personal, but he knows enough people within the program to confide that it's real, saying he knows several intelligence officers involved in the crash site retrieval program, as well adding that there's a decades-long competition with adversaries to retrieve the materials from crash sites to reverse engineer the crafts for defense advantages. Isn't that so like humans? We got alien technology and the only thing we can do with it is build more warships. Can't do anything fun with it? Anyway, it's an incredible claim, and if this is true, it would be the story of the century, maybe the biggest story in human history, this moment of truth that everyone is looking for and fighting for, this final proof that aliens are totally out there among us and we're working on their crafts. So is it true? Is the truth finally coming out? All we can do is sit on our thumbs and wait and see. Number 2, strange orb. I think this has been kind of a heavy video so far. You know, we've got these big claims of whistleblowers, leaks to the press, shadowy organizations, black ops mercenaries, people being silenced, retrieved crashes. We need at least one footage of something strange, a little black dot going across the sky to just lighten up the mood a little bit, you know? Plus, I really think footage of weird orbs is kind of the bread, butter, the roots of this channel, and I don't want to stray too far from my roots. This following footage that we're about to show you was captured sometime in June 2021 and remained dormant for years, until being posted on the UFO subreddit, which is the most trusted source of UFO information in the human world, I think. When full disclosure happens, it's gonna happen on Reddit before anywhere else. Now, this clip shows a small black spherical orb darting around the sky at that impossible to ascertain distance where you can't make out any features or anything. The object moves erratically. It doesn't seem like it's moving with the wind or being blown, but rather jerked around, like stopping completely and then going in the opposite direction, giving the impression that it's something that's being controlled. Now, whether that means it's being controlled remotely or it's being piloted by something very, very small, I'm not sure, but it's something that's being driven. That much I think. Drones are obviously the most likely possibility, although I would say the object in this clip seems like it's moving just a little bit too fast to be a drone from this planet. We see a lot of these mysterious spheroid objects in UFO clips, and I have to wonder if they're all coming from the same source. Somebody check the manufacturer's logo on it. Now, it bears mentioning with any clip of a weird thing in the sky, very likely could just be a balloon, could also be some sort of camera glitch or artifact, and without any of the context or important key details in this video, like where it came from, who filmed it, and why, it can be hard to tell for certain just what this is. Not much to go on but speculating. So I'll leave it up to you in the comments section. You let me know if you think this is just circumstantial and distracting us from the truth, or if this is another piece of the puzzle. And number 1, recovered crafts. Of course, David Grusch isn't the only person claiming the US government has impressive UFO technology hidden away. An unnamed, anonymous whistleblower, probably for the best, claims that a UFO recovered by the US military is so advanced that its technology doesn't even make sense to humans at all, claiming that this craft distorts space-time, claiming that on the inside, it's the size of a football stadium. This story was relayed from the whistleblower to lawyer Daniel Sheehan, who's a lawyer who specializes in aiding UFO whistleblowers. There really is a guy for everything, isn't there? The story goes that the US recovered a craft that was 30 feet wide and embedded in the earth. The crash site recovery crew sent an agent inside the downed craft and discovered, like the TARDIS, it's much bigger on the inside, saying that he was disoriented and nauseous after stepping inside and discovering that the innards of the craft were impossibly large, the size of a football stadium, while the outside was only about 30 feet wide. Now, apparently size isn't the only thing affected by the wondrous craft, with the whistleblower claiming that the agent said he was inside the UFO for a few minutes, while the rest of the unit outside claimed that he was inside for hours. Now, a story this bold would require a great weight of evidence to go with it. And that's the kicker, because unfortunately we don't have much of anything at all outside of an anonymous unnamed source possibly relating this to a lawyer. There's no dates, no location given, and definitely no photos or footage. So can we rack this up? Is this a believable source, or is this someone trying to jump on the coattails of other whistleblowers and try to drum up a bit of attention? Are all of these stories coming out right now proof that full disclosure is coming up on us, or is this just a carrot on a stick to keep us chasing forever and ever? I'm not sure, but I know the truth is out there, my ghouls and goblins. Number 4, the Pentagon. We are at a truly exciting time to be an enthusiast of UFOs and aliens. It feels more so than any other point in human history that the discussion around aliens and UFOs is leaving the fringe sciences and starting to become accepted, commonplace by respectable employed people, not just folks wearing tinfoil. Recently, the Pentagon released a video of a reported UFO zipping around near an Air Force drone and revealed footage to, quote the Pentagon, everyone thought was truly anomalous, which is government speak for we don't know what the this is. At the time, the object appeared to be moving with something propelling it forward, but a later determination would show that it didn't, which baffled and puzzled the analysts, as usually something propels you forward in the air. Now, this hearing was very interesting for a few reasons, but foremost, it allowed us a little bit of insight into how government agencies go about treating UFO sightings. We learned they categorize them first by what they most likely are, starting with the obvious things like planes or balloons, which account for like 99% of all UFO sightings. And then when it's something they truly cannot immediately identify, they prioritize where was it found? How is the object maneuvering? Does it seem like it's being driven? Controlled? Does it seem as if it has a payload? Does it have something attached to it? The hearing started by saying that the Pentagon currently doesn't believe that they have any definitive proof of extraterrestrial life on Earth, but concluded by saying that we'll be getting another disclosure document coming soon, possibly even as early as July. So we have huge, exciting things on the horizon coming up in July, and I'm not just talking about the Barbie movie. Number 2, Chad Underwood. I think by now, if you're subscribed to the channel, and I hope you are, you've heard a thing or two about the Tic Tac UFOs that the Navy released videos of. In a lot of ways, these videos were kind of one of the first big steps for this recent surge of UFO, UAP stuff being taken kind of seriously, with these baffling videos leaked by the Navy that no one could explain. Although they were taken years and years ago, back in the halcyon days of 2004, the pilot who took the video has rarely spoken out about his experiences at all, for the understandable fear that he'd be lumped in with, quote, the little green men crazies that are out there. Well, I'm one of them, Chad Underwood, and I'm ready to believe you. Oh, Chad Underwood, that's the guy who filmed it. I don't know if I said that before. The story of the Tic Tac UFO began on November 10th, 2004, when radio operator Kevin Day reported seeing something odd and slow flying around the San Diego coast. It was moving approximately 140 miles an hour at a height of nearly 30,000 feet, so definitely not like any bird that I've ever heard of, and probably unlikely to be balloons. Commander David Fravor of the Black Aces identified the 40-foot-long white oblong-esque object hovering and exhibiting no exhaust propulsion, but seemingly darting itself forward at impossible velocities. It was Chad Underwood's footage that got shared and went viral. Via infrared camera pods mounted on the plane, we get sightings of these mysterious Tic Tacs in action. And I wish I had something different to tell you for the end of this point, something a bit more dramatic and exciting, but nearly a decade later, and we are still absolutely no closer to understanding just what happened here, what's happening in these videos, what these crafts are, but maybe we'll get there soon. Like I said, there's supposed to be a document coming up in July that's going to reveal all sorts of new research and information the Pentagon's been working on, and maybe that will be the big one, or maybe it'll just also be nothing like it usually turns out to be. But who knows? And number 1, California Army Base. We all wonder if military bases are hiding advanced technology, right? Like all of us do that, it's not just me. Like what kind of secrets could be buried underneath Area 51? Wouldn't you want to know? It definitely seems like visitors from other worlds are just a bit curious too, as there was a mass sighting of possible UFOs out in the California desert, right above a military base, one Camp Wilson. Was it a sign of visitors scouting out the area, or technology from within being reverse engineered by the American government? Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp are a pair of ufologists, and they revealed the footage on their podcast, saying that the video and photos were shot all the way back in April 2021, but didn't appear until now, where a series of mysterious lights manifested above the base for 9 minutes, prompting the Marines to launch a significant air and ground response. You know, just in case this turned out to be like an Independence Day kind of sitch. The Marines fired flares at the UFO, and the craft disappeared just before the flares could illuminate what they were. Classic, that's just like every single UFO story, you know, right before the good part. The hosts of the podcast go on to say that there was no media coverage whatsoever of the incident. I mean, I don't really remember anybody talking about this in April 2021, but I also don't remember April 2021, so I'm not a trusted source. But since then, nothing really has come out about it. They got the tip from someone at the base, from a person who was pretty high up, they quote. The tip was that there was more to this story that was being led on. Now, some viewers, some astute alien fans, have pointed out a noticeable similarity between this incident and the Phoenix Light event in 1997, where a series of strange lights hovered over the city of Phoenix, witnessed by multiple people in the city, but unknown to everyone and to this day, unsolved. So what happened here? Just one more mystery we'll never get an answer to? I'm not sure, but I'll never stop looking. The truth is out there, and I want to believe.
Number 5, you saw what at the airport? Flight operations at Berwin International Airport in Imphal, Manipur were halted for several hours on Sunday after what was described by officials as an unidentified flying object, you know, good old UFOs, was seen hovering above the airport. I've got a direct quote. Due to the sighting of an unidentified flying object within Imphal controlled airspace, 2 flights have been diverted and 3 departing flights have been delayed. Flight operations commenced after receipt of clearance from the competent authority, according to Airport Director Shipeni Kaishing. Sources said the UFO was sighted by a pilot of an Indigo flight that was about to depart at around 2:20 in the afternoon, and all flight operations were immediately suspended but resumed around 6 p.m. Now, the UFO was said to have been visible until around 4 p.m. We've got another quote. I have no idea what was going on. I was informed that the flight could not take off because there was some kind of object hovering in the sky, an unnamed aerial vehicle of some sort. Officials of the flight operator, however, were not sure what the object was. According to Bhaskar Salam, a passenger passenger. Now, Imphal West Superintendent of Police Kush Shivakanta Singh said the object hovered for several hours, baffling everyone. He said, "We have no idea what the object was and how big it was. It hovered in the sky for hours and then disappeared." The IAF scrambled its Rafale fighter aircraft to search for them, according to defense sources, and they further said the aircraft equipped with advanced sensors carried out low-level flying over the suspected area, but it didn't find anything there. So after the first aircraft returned, one more Rafale fighter was sent for the search, but the UFO wasn't seen around the area. The agencies concerned are trying to find out the details of the UFO, as there are videos of the UFO over the airport. By the way, fun fact, as of 2023, India is one of the most populated countries in the world, and multiple flights diverted, so everybody around there had eyes on it. There has to be good footage somewhere, I'm just hoping it gets out here. As of the time of this recording, we just have a little bit. India has a legitimate government. They had legitimate aerospace safety concerns. Shutting down an entire international airport is a huge deal. Trust me, I've been to Pearson. So meanwhile, the mainstream media is claiming that it was drones. The announcement they lost the UFO was buried under the announcement that the government of India is shutting down the internet in the state of Manipur for the next 5 days because of the current violence in the region. Now, the online general public has made a suggestion that doesn't make sense to me, because once again, they're saying oh, drones. But how would an area besieged by crazy violence be in possession of one of only 2 multiple $1,000 drones that could fly for 3.5 hours and break the law without punishment? I don't know a lot about drones, but I did ask some friends who do a lot of drone footage, and they couldn't even think of a single quadrocopter style drone, which is the only one that could stay in place for that long, that would have anything close to enough battery power to have that kind of intensity to fly for more than a few hours. So if this is a drone, somebody, somewhere, somehow steroided the battery life. It's just not possible. Yes, it could be a weather balloon. We've all heard that explanation before, because that's what it always is when the government doesn't know what something is. There's probably never going to be enough evidence to say one way or the other, so it'll eventually be designated a weather balloon by one government or another. So I'm calling it now. Come back in 2 weeks, check this video. Alexa Morgan is saying it now. Somebody's going to say it was a weather balloon. Number 4, the 2015 Gulf of Mexico. A video uploaded 8 years ago to the interwebs is just starting to get some traction now thanks to a recent Reddit post. User 7R34 wrote in the description, a friend of his took this video on his phone. The video is clear, shape and lights are visible, mentioning specifically pink flashing lights. Okay, I love pink, I'm a little biased. He sent the video from his cell phone through email, which is why it's compressed to a lower quality, and the uploader was trying to figure out how to get the footage back to its original quality, but admits he isn't the best with technology, and hey, neither am I sometimes. Thankfully, I've got an iPhone, it does it for me. Apparently, the platform location is a mile away from the Flower Garden Reef and 130 miles from offshore, and the UFO is around 8 miles away from that. So when the object started coming closer, it seemed as if our friend stopped recording, and apparently, according to the uploader, he got nervous and headed indoors, which I don't blame you. If I saw something weird in the sky, I'd be running away as well. The flight characteristics reminded him of the way an RC drone flies, but at the time, no civilian setup could go that far. Not to mention, once again, the battery power required for the trip. Back in the day, that just wasn't possible for a drone. Trust me, I know somebody that had one, one of the original drones, just not possible. Number 3, Canadian Triangle. Okay, not Canadian Tire, folks. Relax, relax. This is not a reward system. And yes, I'll be the first to admit we don't know as much about this footage as some of the other entries on today's list, so bear with me here. I found this video also while surfing Reddit earlier, and while the site does tend to be the Wild West for finding credible information at times, I think my nonsense filter is pretty decent at this point. Also remember, this is part 4. We are 20 entries in. I gotta find something. Around 4 months ago, user CuriousAd5774 said, "Don't got much to say about this video other than when my dad originally sent it to me, I felt like it had to be a UFO and there's nothing else that seemed to explain it. Canada is notorious for sightings and I myself have seen a few. This was taken way before drones were being used regularly and I'd say this video is easily 10 years old." Alrighty folks, time to break this down. As a Canadian, I feel like I'm an expert now. While watching the video, you can see a number of different orbs in a dark sky, and the way they move and interact cannot be explained by science. Now, user Death Perception has an idea of what it could be, saying, "This is pretty good footage. Yeah, it's dark and an old video, but if it's real, then it's clearly the typical black triangle that's been seen since at least the 90s. Yet another user, only capital 5393, was able to relate to the footage, saying it was exactly what their brother and mother described way back in the 90s. So we're validating the other point. They were driving in New Hampshire in the wee hours of the morning, going south, and this UFO came and followed them for a while on the highway. Now there was nobody else around, and it got above them and just sort of followed them. The lights are exactly what they described though. How they kinda spin in a circle around the center light. Now this user has never seen anything what they described until that point. Now they would have sent this video to the other folks to, corroborate, but sadly their mom passed away in 2015. She was an Air Force flight nurse during Vietnam and had never seen anything like it before. She'd actually heard rumors about UFOs UFOs while being in the Air Force, and the sighting made her quite interested in the subject. She reported it and joined MUFON, and at one meeting she sat at the same table with Betty Hill and talked with them. So they really wish that their mom was still there to show her it, which, hey, this is fascinating. Like, the proof is there, folks. The proof is there. I keep saying it. It's there. Number 2, now you see it, now you don't. So back in 2014, the disappearance of the Boeing 777 with 227 passengers and 12 crew members on board led to a search effort stretching from the Indian Ocean, west of Australia, to Central Asia. So for context, if you didn't know about this, because I totally forgot about it, Flight 370 took off at 12:41 a.m. local time and reached a cruising altitude of 10,700 meters at 1:01 a.m. The aircraft communication addressing and reporting system, which transmitted data about the aircraft's performance, sent its last transmission at 1:07 and was subsequently switched off. The last voice communication from the crew occurred at 1:19, and at 1:21 the plane's transponder, which communicated with air traffic control, switched off, just as the plane was about to enter Vietnamese airspace over the South China Sea. At 1:30, Malaysian military and civilian radar began tracking the plane as it turned around and then flew southwest over the Malay Peninsula and then northwest over the Strait of Malacca. At 2:22, Malaysian military radar lost contact with the plane over the Andaman Sea. An Inmarsat satellite in geostationary orbit over the Indian Ocean received hourly signals from Flight 370 and last detected the plane at 8:11. So initial searches for the plane concentrated on the South China Sea. After it was determined that Flight 370 had turned to the west shortly after the transponder was switched off, search efforts moved to the Strait of Malacca and the Andaman Sea. On March 15th, a week after the plane had disappeared, the contact was disclosed. Analysis of the signal could not locate the plane precisely, but did determine the plane might have been anywhere on 2 arcs, one stretching from Java southward into the Indian Ocean, southwest of Australia, and the other stretching northward across Asia from Vietnam to Turkmenistan. The search area was then expanded to the Indian Ocean southwest of Australia on the southern arc and Southeast Asia, western China, the Indian subcontinent, and Central Asia on the northern arc. Now on March 24th, the Malaysian Prime Minister announced that based on analysis of the final signals, Inmarsat and the UK Air Accidents Investigation Branch had concluded that the flight crashed in a remote part of the Indian Ocean, which made it unlikely that anyone on board survived. But are we actually sure? Flight Officer Jack Chen on board a Royal Australian Air Force flight during the search for the wreckage was hampered by the remote location of the crash site. So beginning on April 6th, an Australian ship detected several possible acoustic pings, possibly from the black box of the plane, around 2,000 miles northwest of Perth, which is in Western Australia. Now further analysis by the AAIB of the Inmarsat data also found a partial signal from the plane at 8:19 a.m., consistent with the location of the acoustic pings, the last of which were heard on April 8th. If the signals were from Flight 370, the flight recorder was likely at the end of its battery life. Further searches were conducted using a robotic submarine. However, the pings had been spread over a wide area, so the submarine didn't find any debris, and tests found that a faulty cable in the acoustic equipment could have produced the pings. We didn't find the first piece of debris, by the way, until July 29th of 2015, when the right wing was discovered on a French island, about 37 kilometers west of the Indian Ocean area that was being searched by Australian authorities. Over the next year and a half, 26 more pieces of debris were found on the shores of Tanzania, Mozambique, South Africa, Madagascar, and more. 3 of the 27 pieces were positively identified as coming from Flight 370, and 17 were thought to have likely come from the plane. 2 pieces came from the cabin interior, suggesting that the plane had broken up, but whether the plane broke up in the air or on impact with the ocean could not be determined. A study of the wing flaperon and a piece of the right wing flap showed that the plane had not undergone a controlled descent, so the plane had not been guided to a water landing. Some researchers note that the flight could have struck the water vertically, a possibility in which the results of one modeling study conducted before the flaperon's discovery could explain, the lack of evidence. The debris locations were used to narrow the search area and the ocean, since some possible crash sites would have been unlikely to produce debris. Now here's the thing, there's recent footage believed to be from the day of the incident floating around the interwebs, and if you look closely, the plane just blips out of existence, so I'd love to know why. My theory, there was a UFO up there, they were diving away from it, and also, why haven't we found any human remains? I have questions. Number 1, Aviano UFO. So this footage has been around for some time and was released in the US by researcher Paola Harris at the 36th Annual International MUFON Symposium in Denver, Colorado back in 2005. Now Paola lives in Italy and was given a 4th generation copy by an anonymous source who told her the video was recorded in Italy near the infamous Aviano Air Base, which is, kind of the center of a UFO controversy. According to Paola, the original videographer remains unknown, and the object seems to be terrestrial in origin, more properly some kind of military prototype, according to some folks that might think that's what it might be. Now the feature manner in which the disc disappears at the end raises questions for the Italian researchers, and yes, that's why she thinks the military might be involved. But my theory, something up there. Now, she thinks it's very clearly a flight test, since the videographer was in position focusing the camera where the disc appears initially. The object isn't CGI, and no one has been able to clearly state what it is. So my thoughts, UFOs. Number 5, Italian Observatory. So back in 2007, astronomer Alberto Mayer, living in Busto Arizizio, I think I got that right, over in Italy, made an incredible discovery, almost completely by accident, which, hey, that's how most scientific progress gets made. Or maybe just me. He was adjusting the focus of his telescope when he spotted and tracked a UFO as it flew across the surface of the moon. Now the video shows the portions of the moon that he was focused on in close-up mode, while tracking a solid black object as it flew over the surface. Now sure, I could just describe what is going on in this video, but I could also let you see it and decide for yourselves, which makes a lot more sense in my brain. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, so here's roughly, here the one, 24,000 words worth of content if my math makes sense, which is about a 50-50 chance. Take a look. Pretty weird, eh? So the round black object is tracked as he catches, it just after it passes the Wallace crater. And today this is how I'm learning parts of the moon were named. It hovers and hesitates before making a sudden change of path at an exact 45-degree angle. The precision and control is what gives people pause, since it seems to move as if it's being controlled, and with such mechanical dominance that it seems like it has to be something being intentionally driven, not just a strange rock floating throughout the stars. Commenters on the video pointed out that the object doesn't decrease in size at all, suggesting that the object isn't that close to the moon, and rules out the theory that this is a shadow on the surface of the moon from a large object. Now look, I'm one girl. I'm only capable of so much. The science stuff, kind of outside of my range of expertise, but I can confirm and offer my, speculation on UFO videos. And this is something. To quote one of my favorite phrases at the moment, I suppose, to be determined. Number 4, the footage the Pentagon refuses to release from Alaska. So between February 4th to the 12th, earlier this year, 4 different unidentified objects were forcibly taken down from the skies over Alaska, South Carolina, the Yukon, and the Great Lakes. While cockpit audio from F-16 pilots who, took down the UFO over Lake Huron was released, a spokesman for the Pentagon has confirmed that footage will not be released in the near future, being quoted directly as saying, "I can tell you that there is not currently any images or video footage that we can release. The imagery remains classified and I have not received any information as to the potential timeline on a change in classification." So usual government speak. This refusal is a drastic difference in comparison to the quick release of an Air Force photo of what was believed to be a Chinese spy balloon that was brought down at the same time over on the East Coast, and footage from where a Russian plane appeared to intentionally collide with a drone last March. Noted UFO researcher John Greenwald requested the footage and photos of the UFO, takedowns be released via a Freedom of Information Act, with the Pentagon claiming national security exemptions to deny this request. Because, that's not scary at all. An Air Force official said that the images would reveal cryptology and national security concerns if released. And even the, Canadian RCMP are playing coy, having ended their public search for the remains. Now look, I don't know about you folks at home, but that sounds pretty dang suspicious to me, and I think I know what I'm talking about at this point. So does anybody want to take a random trip to the Yukon just to sightsee? Totally not to recover UFO debris or anything suspicious? I'll start the car. I got room for a couple of us. I drive a nice big SUV. Number 3, the Guy Hotel memo. So it's the most requested document in the FBI's archives, right after the photo of Elvis and Nixon riding with an alien. I wish I could make this stuff up, but the file has been checked out roughly 1 million times in the last 2 years alone. So as far as cagey cover-ups go, this one's fairly out in the open, but that doesn't make it any less invigorating or confounding. It's a single page, an unconfirmed report that the FBI never even followed up on. The file in question? So it's a memo dated back to March of 1950, authored by one Guy Hotel, who served as the director of the FBI field office in Washington, D.C., addressed to FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover. I know you all know that name. So in the memo, Guy was relaying a story seen by an Air Force pilot about something bizarre they had seen in New Mexico. And this was right around the time of Roswell fever. The memo describes flying saucers, circular in shape with raised centers, approximately 50 feet in diameter. It goes on to say that inside each saucer was a flight crew, each occupied by 3 bodies of roughly human shape, but only 3 feet tall, and bandaged in a manner similar to blackout suits used by speed flyers and test pilots. The memo goes on to claim that the crafts were found because an aircraft radar had interfered with the controlling mechanisms of the saucer, and concludes by saying, "No further evaluation was ever attempted." I don't know about you, but it seems like this should be a significantly bigger deal than that. No further evaluation? Oh, that's fine. Somebody in the Air Force claims they saw a series of flying saucers piloted by tiny men in shiny spacesuits, not even 3 years after the Roswell incident, kind of took over New Mexico. But hey, it's nothing. At least I guess there's some comfort in knowing that the government has always behaved like this when it comes to investigating and reporting on possible UAP and UFO sightings. I believe it's worth mentioning that Project Blue Book was launched not even 2 years later, investigating UFO sightings in the Air Force, so once again, giving the government my usual dose of sci side-eye and like, yo, what the heck? Number 2, Ryan Graves' report. So Ryan Graves is a studied Air Force pilot, an FA-18 Super Hornet pilot specifically, who has flown the skies for 10 years and has seen countless UFOs in his time flying for the Navy, seen a lot of things he can't explain. He has recently spoke out saying these things would be out there all day. Keeping an aircraft in the air requires a significant amount of, the speeds that we have observed. 12 hours in the air is about 11 hours longer than we'd expect. On one particular incident back in late 2014, a Super Hornet pilot nearly crashed into one of these unknown objects. Some of these objects were caught on plane camera, and so because it's me, we have some of that footage for you today. The pilot and his wingman were flying in tandem about 100 feet apart over the Atlantic east when something flew between them. Now, Lieutenant Graves said that the object looked like a sphere encasing a cube. The pilots were concerned because they were, a covert drone program, and government officials wouldn't have had them flying around fighter jets for fear of collision. It was this that had the Navy concerned that perhaps there was more to investigate with this particular encounter. But what was truly unsettling the pilots, besides the fact that there was an intense possible safety crash, was that these crafts were accelerating to hypersonic speeds, stopping and turning on a dime, which is not really something that human pilots are capable of. So what do the pilots think they were dealing with? Graves did speak out saying, we have helicopters that can hover. We have an aircraft that can fly at 30,000 feet and right at the surface. But combine all that in one vehicle of some type with no jet engine, no exhaust plume? That's not possible. So what do we think, folks? This seems like something worth digging into, right? Suspicious? Hands up. Who's with me? I knew y'all would.
Number 5. Alien gate crashers. Our first story comes from a man in Zimbabwe who was asleep one night when he woke up to see an alien craft that seemingly had no trouble passing through solid objects. This is his recollection of the event. My name is Johan Reitman, and I farm near Feathersdorp, 150 kilometers from Harare. I am 31 years old. On the 5th of February, I woke up from a bad dream just after midnight, when I heard a car go past. I got up and looked out of the bedroom window, which faces the front of the farm. I watched as 2 cars passed each other, a strange sight, as there are usually few vehicles to be seen, and none at night. One car pulled into my gate, and I thought immediately, oh no, those guys are coming to pinch my new engine on the borehole. I rubbed my eyes and face to make sure I wasn't still asleep. I looked at the car again. It was long and wide, and made a low humming sound. I could see lights at the back, a row of red lights, and a front light which shone high enough to illuminate the treetops. This car or object stopped at my gate for a good 30 seconds and then drove on as if the gate had been opened, and that was it. It was gone. I took my torch, my rifle, 4 farm workers, and my dogs, and we went out to the gate. Despite the fact that it had just rained, there were no tire tracks or human tracks on the road. As we approached the gate, I could feel heat coming up from the surface of the road, a really oppressive heat radiating from the ground. Even my ears felt flushed with heat, and my workers and I were soaked with perspiration. It was about 12:30 by then, so when we found nothing further, we all went back home. It was only the following morning that it occurred to me that when we reached the gate, it was closed. This meant that the car had disappeared through a closed gate because they had been watching it when it disappeared, and the gate hadn't moved. The next day, I sent one of the farm workers to fetch some sheep who were lost in the bush, and on his way back, he said he saw an object straddling the road. By the time he reached the spot, it was gone, but strangely enough, the sheep would not walk over to the area where the object had been. Instead, they divided around it. Number 4, a UFO crash in Greece. Our next report comes from Georg and Pantelos, who interviewed the witnesses of a UFO crash in Megas Platanos in Greece. The following is quoted directly from his report. At 0300 hours that night, shepherds and some villagers observed a small group of 5 to 6 UFOs approaching the area from the north. One of them had an unstable flight and seemed to be having a problem. Strange lights came out of the UFO's fuselage, but without any noise. As an eyewitness, Shepherd Trantos Karatranos told me suddenly the treble UFO lost altitude and crashed to the ground at a distance of about 500 meters away from him. He didn't hear any noise, but a fire started burning the bushes. Trantos was very afraid to get closer and stayed in his position watching the phenomenon. The rest of the UFOs in this group stopped over the accident spot, and 2 of them landed near the destroyed UFO. In a few minutes, the fire in the bushes was terminated. For the rest of the night till dawn, there was an unusual traffic from the ground to the flying UFOs. Light spots went up and down, probably collecting the pieces of the destroyed UFO, and any bodies of the crew. They finished the collection before sunrise, and after that, the rest of the UFOs took off and were lost in the sky. Meanwhile, all the villagers had been awakened and had seen the whole operation. Early in the morning, the villagers went out to the spot where all of this had occurred, and they saw on the ground a burned oval shape in the ground, with a cut pine tree in the center, and very small metallic pieces, and pieces of wires around the tree. Some of the people, like Aragus Alavantes, collected a number of these pieces. One strange thing was that at the edges of the burned oval, the fire stopped, like it had been cut by a knife. Some hours later, a team of Hellenic Air Force personnel came into the area and told the villagers that this was nothing serious. Maybe a Soviet satellite crashed or a plane. They took some pieces of the UFO too and left the area. Argyris sent a piece of the UFO to the Space Research Institute in Brussels. That's the story. If you think that we need more information, we can get more, because I have a very good relationship with the people in the village of Megas Plantos. You see, they don't like to talk a lot about the story, because they are afraid that someone will think they are crazy or something. Number 3, an unexpected police sighting. The next story on our list was related by a Lithuanian police chief, whose officers witnessed strange UFO activity that resulted in him having to make the press rounds to reassure the people of his country. As he put it, "I am chief of police in Vilnius, Lithuania. Recently, I had to appear on the radio to explain that 2 policemen who had reported seeing something extraordinary were known to me to be reliable witnesses and were of sound and honest mind. There has been considerable public anxiety about this matter, arising from what I consider to be media hysteria about their official report. Earlier this year, the entire police force was put on alert. The 2 officers stated that they had observed a round, shining object on the main route at around midnight, 10 kilometers from the capital city, near the village of Nemedjus. The object was flashing bright light and hovered 20 to 30 meters above the ground. At the same time, you could hear a strange sound, like electricity crackling, they said. The 2 men approached the UFO after watching it for almost half an hour. When they were some 50 meters from it, the object started to move upwards and away from them into the air, then accelerated towards the town. At that point, an alert was put out, and van loads of Rapid Reaction Force police and tracker dogs arrived on the scene, but the UFO had disappeared. We conducted official tests on the area's ground composition, measuring the air's radiation, and took sound recordings. The grass in the area for 10 meters around where the UFO was reported to have been sighted was visibly flattened. Number 2, a Swedish abduction. Our next tale is from a Swedish man who was walking home one night when he suddenly saw a strange light that seemed to instantly transport him to his destination. The following is his story in his own words. Call me Anders. In early March, I left a local election celebration and decided to walk home, about 5 kilometers away. I had a few glasses but was still sober. It was a starry, moonlit night, and I decided to take a shortcut that led over a hill. As I was climbing, a bright light came from behind, which I thought was a fast car. I moved off the road onto the grass verge, and then I realized it was not a car. The light passed right over me, almost touching my head very quick. Then, I found myself immediately outside my home in Lindholmen, ringing the doorbell frantically. When my wife opened the door, she saw that I had a wound in my forehead and my cheek was burnt. The next day, I telephoned the National Defense and was interviewed in detail by 2 investigators. They told me there were other witnesses. A woman cyclist reported seeing a light at the same time I did, and a couple driving nearby saw what they thought was a new water tower with extremely bright lights shining out of its windows. Later, they realized there was no water tower at that spot. I still have a scar on my face to this day. Whenever I touch it, I feel a tingling sensation, and I experience a wonderful feeling of oneness, of unity with the earth itself. Number 1, a strange sighting in Uruguay. Our final tale of the day comes from a police chief in Uruguay who was out with friends when the sights he saw made him a believer. In his own words, "I am Police Chief Miguel Costa, in charge of the force at Melo, Uruguay. On March 10th, I was driving with 2 friends, Armando and Maria Pasa, along a gravel road near Tacurembo, when a huge oval disc loomed out of the early morning darkness. It was enormous and gleaming, with yellow and orange lights. I stopped the car and purely on impulse flashed the headlights. All of a sudden, the UFO appeared to hesitate and zigzag up and back as if answering our call. When I started up again, it was following us. I again stopped the car and flashed my lights. Again, the UFO appeared to waver in reply. We drove on once more along the twisting road, and the UFO stayed with us, always about half a kilometer away. This went on for almost 50 kilometers. That's when the strangest thing of all occurred. We were all glued to the windows, watching as the disc suddenly shot towards the ground as if it was going to crash. It stopped 50 to 100 meters from the Earth, and we could clearly see its round, dome-like shape with a large flat plate underneath. There was a slight ring of cloud around the dome. The top was reddish, but the bottom was a brilliant glowing white. Inexplicably, the new position of the UFO made us all uneasy, so we turned around and headed back to Tacuarembó, the nearest town. The blazing lights of the UFO remained at a constant distance behind us. I pulled in under some trees, hoping to evade it. We then observed a second disc traveling some distance behind the first. They never touched, but they seemed to be traveling together. They seemed to maneuver up and down until clouds started to form. Then they passed over the top of the clouds and lit them up like a halo. Then they faded, getting smaller and smaller until they disappeared at dawn. They had been with us for 90 minutes. We were all speechless, as we could not believe what we had witnessed. I myself have never believed in UFOs, but I do know that this incident revealed something rare and inexplicable.
Number 4, Bondi Beach. Our next video comes to us from the land down under, so you might need to flip your phone or your monitor, your tablet or whatever upside down to get a good look at the UFO. Maybe that'll help. See if that gets it there for you. Caught on Bondi Beach by TikTok user DJ Just, we've got a pretty clear view of something strange flying across the beautiful blue Australian sky. Now in this clip we can see something shiny, round, and reflective making its way up there, tailed behind by a black helicopter. Looks to be kinda small, maybe the size big enough for one person or maybe 3 or 4 little green men depending on how compact they are. I want to know if that helicopter is a coincidence or if it's responding to this UAP, you know, coming in to recover it, make contact. Now commenters on the video suggested that it could very well be a weather balloon passing through, and it's definitely likely. That's what it turns out to be, like 99.9% of all UFO sightings. But if it was a weather balloon, you know, surely it would have been shot down during that little welcoming party where we were shooting down weather balloons all over the globe, right? Kidding. Another commenter suggested kind of reasonably that it could be a plane because there is a military base fairly close by to Bondi Beach, which would make some sense. Might even explain that helicopter coming in near the end there. Unfortunately, this clip is a little more zoomed out than some of the other ones on here, so it's not the easiest to say what's going on here, but I kind of feel like that's half the fun with UFO clips, isn't it? You know, trying to figure out what's going on. It's like a little guessing game. Let's hear what you all think down there. Is this aliens trying to touch down in Sydney? Or just something perfectly reasonable? I know which one I would infinitely prefer it to be. It's the aliens, in case you were wondering. It's aliens. Number 3, Canada. I had to include this next clip. I just had to. Yes, it's a very cool clip, but mostly it was taken from my hometown. Mississauga, baby! No one famous has ever come from there, so there might be a halfway decent chance I could be Mississauga's biggest star as I spend my days endlessly watching the stars. Enough talk about the Greater Toronto Area's greatest borough. Let's take a look at some more UAP clips. Coming in next is a clip posted to Reddit, simply titled, "Weird Object Seen Flying Over Mississauga," and it is hard to disagree. Why don't you take a little look-see for me? I mean, look at it. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to say that just looking at it won't tell you. What on earth is going on here? What I love about this clip is that this one doesn't even remotely look like anything else I've seen in a minute. This doesn't look like a weather balloon or a flying saucer. I don't even know where you'd start describing this one, really. This one looks like it's a UFO Rorschach test, I think. You take a look at it and reveal some element of your personality. I kind of see a little spaceman, like a little Among Us guy, hovering around on a jetpack. The way it moves really gets me too. It seems erratic and alive, less like it's being controlled and more like something's fighting the controls here. Now, I always like to listen to both sides of every story when it comes to UFO sighting content, and one user in the comments here suggested that he was pretty certain that this was just a Mr. Peanut balloon being let loose, and I have to admit I kind of see it. I don't know if you want to throw up a photo of Mr. Peanut here. I just think it's absolutely hilarious if this UFO sighting is really just a sighting of a giant floating lagoon. I'll leave it to my commenters to decide. You're my best and brightest. How are we feeling on this clip? Is this something weird in the sky? Proof of travelers from beyond the stars experimenting with some new technology that we couldn't possibly understand? Bigger than any of us? Bigger than this galaxy? Or is this just a bit of advertising for a salty snack from the Planters Corporation? Either truth is horrifying. Number 2, best UFO clip. Our next video was posted to TikTok by the user UFO Tracker. Good, we need somebody tracking that. And the caption says it's the best UFO sighting caught on camera. It's definitely pretty good, I'll give him that. But I'm putting it at the number 2 spot if for nothing else to keep UFO Tracker humble. You know, I want to keep you working hard. But for what it's worth, this is definitely a great clip. Why don't you take a look for me? We can see a flying saucer type looking UFO floating around in the sky, almost looking a bit like a perfect sphere. You know, it looks like it's got a glowing light in the middle. If anyone out there is an Apex Legends fan, immediately I said it looks exactly like a cargo bot, and you should consider shooting it down for some loot. And someone in the comments said the exact same thing. So hey, gamer minds think alike, or however that saying goes. Just as it seems like we might be able to get a good glimpse of whatever is happening up there in the sky, a fleet of what looks like a bunch of military vessels show up, presumably just to take care of what is just a weather balloon, right? Now, a lot of people in the comments on this one were more skeptical than usual, I noticed, with most of the commenters suggesting that this was either a balloon or a drone. One of the comments posted bemoaning how good CGI is getting, saying, "I don't believe anything I see on video anymore." Another one saying, with how good CGI is getting, it's harder and harder to tell the real from the fakes. I mean, I get it, we are getting pretty good. I'm not even a real person, I'm just an AI generation that does these videos for you. This clip does look pretty fantastical. The only trouble is I couldn't really find a location of where this was happening. If this was footage of one of those strange objects that have been shot down recently over the sky in the US or not, who knows? Maybe this footage was absolutely never meant to be seen, and I just got the whole office marked for surveillance, as if we're not already. My Google search history is enough to have me on like 4 different agency watch lists. It's nothing but alien videos, skinwalkers, Bigfoot sightings, and recommendations for local frozen yogurt places.
Number 5, Kenneth Arnold. Let me know if I got my math wrong. What he said he saw, and spent the rest of his life trying to explain though, added the words flying saucer to the vocabularies of millions of people around the world. That June afternoon, Arnold took off from Chehalis, Washington. Please tell me if I got that right, I swear I looked it up. On his way to an air show in Pendleton, Oregon, with a planned fuel stop at Yakima, Washington. He was an experienced pilot with 4,000 hours of flying time logged, and a member of an Idaho search and rescue unit. He was piloting a single-engine Call Air A2 light airplane. Skies were clear and the winds were light, so he planned to detour a bit en route. A U.S. Marine Corps Curtiss C-46 commando transport had crashed with 32 U.S. Marines on board somewhere near his eastward course, and he wanted to find the aircraft and claim a $5,000 reward, which, hey, money also motivates me. I get it. Shortly before 3 o'clock, as Arnold circled his plane about 20 miles west of Mount Rainier, searching for the C-46, he saw a bright flash to the northeast. Now, it startled him. He assumed it was just some military lieutenant out with a shiny P-51, and he had caught the reflection of the sun hitting the wings of his plane. But after more flashes appeared, Arnold ruled out, that could be the answer. He claimed that the, flashes emanated from 9 shiny objects flying in an, formation about 5 miles long. He described each object as circular, about 100 feet across, and with no actual tail. The objects periodically flipped, banked, weaved side to side, kind of like the tail of a kite. The formation was crossing in front of Arnold, and he decided to time its passage from Mount Rainier to Mount Adams. He calculated the objects were flying at about 1,200 miles per hour, 2 times faster than any airplane known at the time. Now, months would pass before Colonel Chuck Yeager flew the Bell X-1 rocket airplane to a speed of 700 miles per hour, and exceeded the speed of sound. Just for reference. Arnold emphatically denied that he initially described the objects as flying saucers, but as Megan Garber wrote in her June 15th of 2014 article for The Atlantic, sources at the time do credit Arnold with using the terms saucer, disc, and pie pan in his description of the objects he had seen. So don't try and backtrack, dude. We have receipts. He told his story to reporters Bill Baquette and Nolan Skiff of the East Oregonian newspaper the day after his sighting. Now, Skiff used the words saucer-like aircraft when he published a short print article that same day. After suggesting to Arnold that a wire story might generate comments from the military on flights of experimental aircraft that could explain his sighting, Baquette published a brief story picked up by the Associated Press wire service, using the words 9 bright saucer-like objects to describe what Arnold said he saw. So by that afternoon, the tale that he had seen flying saucers kind of spread nationwide. The Associated Press gets around. A radio host interviewing Arnold on June 26 noted how rapidly the story was shared, saying the Associated and United Press all over the nation have been after this story. It's been on every newscast, over the air, and in every newspaper I know of. The Chicago Sun ran the headline saying, "Supersonic flying saucers sighted by the Idaho pilot." What do you know? Arnold became a media sensation, but he didn't want the attention. Now at this point, I'm sure you're wondering, okay, Alexa, like, shut up. Why does this relate to Project Blue Book? Well, this was the incident that started the entire investigative process. This is the whole reason for Project Blue Book. And to this day, we've never had a concrete answer about what he saw. Make of that what you will. Number 4, the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Many folks believe a UFO and its extraterrestrial crew crash landed in the New Mexico desert near Roswell on July 2nd of 1947. Many folks, including me. Now, we also believe the site was cleaned up by the Air Force from the nearby Roswell Army Air Force Base. Eyewitnesses reported that 3-foot-tall, gray-skinned aliens passed away in the crash, and according to Lauren Coleman, the co-author of Weird Ohio, them and their space vessel were shipped off to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base's notorious Hangar 18, which was the home base for Project Blue Book. And here's the thing, everybody's been trying to get in those doors ever since. Senator Barry Goldwater supposedly asked USAF General Curtis LeMay if he could see what was inside, and LeMay not only told him, you're not getting in, don't ask me ever again. Which, if that's coming from a government official, it's a little scary. Now, the Roswell crash wasn't the only extraterrestrial crash in the US at the time. Some allege there were more before 1952 that were covered up, and all the debris and their pilots, with blue-green skin this time, were all carted off to, you guessed it, Wright-Pat. One of the crashes apparently held as many as 16 alien bodies. Like, that's a lot of bodies. Now, another crash yielded a ship made of lightweight material, impenetrable by any earthly means. Now, whenever a UFO crash happens, the wreckage is sent to Wright-Pat to be reverse engineered, if Area 51's too busy, because sometimes they're overflowing with crafts. Some believe technologies that we've learned from UFOs at Wright-Pat include fiber optics, lasers, night vision, integrated circuits, particle beams, you name it. Now, in other news, Henry H. Arnold was the only person to ever be dubbed General of the Air Force, so as a major, I swear it's relevant, he once lived on a house near Huffman Prairie, which has since been named after him, which is where the Wright brothers worked on their planes, which is now, yes I know, the Wright-Pat Air Force Base. I swear, I get to my points. It takes me a minute. So for many years, there's visitors that have reported strange noises, objects moving on their own, odd shadows, and other phenomena. Heck, that famous show, Ghost Hunters, we've all watched it? Yeah, they visited the Arnold house and found that at least 5 entities live in there. The Ghost Hunters heard sounds from the bathroom, folks laughing in the living room, dining room, specters turning on lights. Now, if we want to talk about specifically haunted artifacts, parts from Lady Be Good, a B-24 that disappeared during a run on Italy, are said to rearrange themselves. The POW exhibit is supposed to make visitors feel an inexplicable sense of dread. Is this directly relevant to Project Blue Book? No. Is this stuff that they're not going to tell you about on the official tour? Yes. Some folks report that the ghosts actually show up for work. Like, they'll walk in, open a door, hang out. Like, excuse me, where is this in the news? Now, there's a helicopter that was used for classified missions back in the day. Sits in a museum, still filled with holes from things I can't say, and you can actually hear like the voices from the troops that carried around. There is a young boy that, hangs around. Let's say something that dropped the Fat Man on Japan, if you know what I know. And supposedly he just comes out at night, hangs out, has fun. The Hop Along, which is another, military craft. Sometimes you see the pilot in the seat of it, just sitting there, flipping switches, trying to get home. Oh, and the seat is still stained with redness. Now, there are some malevolent spirits. They're not all super duper friendly. I can't say the name of what houses the malevolent spirits, but you get some rattles, some clanks, some shadowy figures, strange lights, all sorts of ghosties. And this is where Project Blue Book is based out of? I don't know, man. I'm seeing a lot of weird stuff here. Number 3, the 1964 New Mexico case. So picture this. Socorro, New Mexico, April 24th of 1964, 5:45 p.m. to be exact. Sergeant Lonnie Zamora, police officer, is in pursuit of a speeding car when unexpectedly he hears a roar and witnesses a flame in the southwestern sky. Now, after that he encounters a shiny object described as like aluminum, shaped like the letter O, about 150 to 200 yards away. But just wait, it gets more intriguing. He spots 2 figures in white overalls beside the object, seemingly normal but perhaps smaller adults or larger young people. And hey, if this isn't enough to stir the good old imagination, there's a blue and orange flame beneath the object, and in the blink of an eye, it rises and zips away. Now here's where the story takes a twist. Project Blue Book, the thing we're talking about today, tagged this case as unknown. Zamora's account becomes a puzzle, attracting both, UFO enthusiasts and skeptics alike. You get a lot of theories, a lot of possible explanations. We get like the mundane, the fantastical, who knows what. Could it be a mirage of the star Canopus, as, one UFO skeptic, I believe his name was Stuart Campbell, suggested? Or was it the testing of a lunar landing device by the White Sands Missile Range? Or was it just a prank by, local tech students? Now, the president of New Mexico Tech at the time, Sterling Colgate, was leaning towards a student prank, describing this object as a candle in a balloon, not sophisticated. And yes, we have some more skeptics that want to give their 2 cents. Philip J. Klass, he labeled the incident a hoax, a ploy to boost tourism. Some folks even thought that, Zamora might have been a victim rather than an active participant in an alleged hoax. So fast forward to 1966, we get Paul Ridings, president of, the Chamber of Commerce, looking for a tourist attraction opportunity. So we put in some stone walkways, steps, and benches all around the supposed landing site, but still a quarter mile away because apparently there's radioactive contamination rumors. Now, Zamora didn't like the relentless attention. Retreats from everything, opts for, peace and quiet, manages a gas station. And this incident just is still happening. We don't know what it was. And according to the experts, Project Blue Book labeled this entire event as unexplained. To this day, we don't know what happened. After all these years, we got nothing. Number 2, the 1965 Kecksburg landing. So this incident happened on December 9th of, 1965 in the small town of Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, and it's one of those UFO sightings that evokes curiosity in the mind, if you will. So picture this. A large, brilliant fireball streaking across the skies, witnessed not just only in Kecksburg, but also, 6 different states, and also in Canada, over Detroit and Windsor respectively. Now, initial explanations rolled in from the experts. So astronomers reasoned it was likely a meteor bolide, gracefully running up in the atmosphere, descending at a steep angle. NASA, ever the voice of reason, chimed in 2005, many years later, suggesting that metallic fragments found in the area were remnants of a Soviet satellite. However, a twist in the tale's recording of this finding mysteriously vanished in 1987, which kind of adds a layer of intrigue to the whole thing. The incident found its place in pop culture and UFOlogy, earning the moniker Pennsylvania's Roswell. But what happened there? We get reports of a large fireball over Michigan and Ohio, grass fires, sonic booms in Pittsburgh, all sorts of stuff. We got specifically wisps of blue smoke, vibrations, and an ominous thump. Something from the sky crashed in the woods. Now the plot thickens when state troopers and the Air Force personnel combed through the forest, but found, in their own words, absolutely nothing. So the initial media coverage had headlines like, searchers failed to find object, which added to the enigma. So we've got some experts weighing in. Astronomers, geophysicists, Department of Defense spokespeople, they all had their say. Let's see, we've got astronomer Paul Lanier, who suggested a meteor, while the Department of Defense leaned towards the fireball just being a natural phenomenon. Science journals dabbled in the discussion too, with Sky and Telescope reporting shockwaves on a seismograph as the fireball passed through the atmosphere. So once again, we're gonna fast forward back to 2005, when NASA was like, oh hey, we have a suggestion. They claimed that it was, satellite fragments. But, we've got investigative reporter Leslie Keene, who, took NASA to court for those mysteriously vanishing records. The legal tussle revealed 2 boxes that were just, of paper that just went missing from this incident, which once again, given the government some side-eye. Oh, but here's the kicker. We've got some recent speculations proposing that the object might have been a General Electric Mark II re-entry vehicle, which is a spy satellite launched by the Air Force. But we don't have confirmation from NASA or the Air Force. So, and one more thing. So we all remember the show Unsolved Mysteries? So back in 1990, they kind of hinted at it was a UFO crash, with eyewitness accounts describing an object shaped like an acorn adorned with hieroglyph-like writing being carted out of the forest. Number 1, J. Allen Hynek. So initially a skeptic of flying saucers, Hynek came to believe over the course of the top secret project that serious investigation of UFOs was a legitimate scientific endeavor. So he acted as scientific advisor to UFO studies undertaken by the US Air Force under 3 projects: Project Sign, Project Grudge, and Project Blue Book. He studied UFO reports and decided whether the phenomena described therein suggested known astronomical objects. When Project Sign hired Hynek, he was skeptical of UFO reports. He suspected they were made by unreliable witnesses, or by the persons who had misidentified man-made or natural objects. Like in 1948, he said, the whole subject seemed utterly ridiculous, and described it as a fad that would soon pass. Now in 1953, Hynek was an associate member of the Robertson panel, which concluded that there was nothing anomalous about UFOs, and that a public relations campaign should be undertaken to debunk the subject and reduce public interest. He would later lament, though, that the Robertson panel, in later years, he would actually retract that and say that that panel helped make UFOs a disreputable field of study. So by the time Project Blue Book was shuttered in 1969, Hynek was one of the few people involved who conceded that some UFO cases could simply defy explanation. Today he's known as the father of UFOlogy, who coined the phrase close encounter. In a 1985 interview, when asked what caused his change of opinion, he responded, two things really. One was the completely negative and unyielding attitude of the Air Force. They wouldn't give UFOs a chance of existing, even if they were flying up and down the street in broad daylight. Everything had to have an explanation. I began to resent that, even though I basically felt the same way, because I still thought they weren't going about it in the right way. You can't assume that everything is, black no matter what. Secondly, the caliber of the witnesses began to trouble me. Quite a few instances were reported by military pilots, for example, and I knew them to be fairly well trained. So this is when I first began to think that, well, maybe there was something to all this.
Number 4, in Brazil. For our next one, we are going to be headed out to Brazil, and wow, I have absolutely no idea what is going on in this clip, but it is definitely bizarre. Let's get some eyes on it. Can you take a look at this for me? I'd say what on earth is that, but I think it is extremely clear that whatever is happening in this clip is not of this earth. It looks like a ball of molten hot lava just existing, vibing, floating along in the countryside. It almost looks like it's dripping too, which I think is interesting. Could this be like sparks flying off of a craft or some technology infinitely too advanced for little old me to possibly understand? A commenter on the video made an interesting comparison that I will include here too for posterity, noting that the dripping effect reminded one commenter of the described UFO in the Rendlesham Forest incident, which was purported to have also been dripping something out of it as it flew, which resembled magma. And if you don't know the Rendlesham Forest incident, we've covered it a couple times on the channel. Can't remember the exact titles of the videos, but I definitely have talked about it. The entity moves very erratically, so it's hard to even guess what this could be. The light seems to be pulsing out of it. Usually you can always entertain the possibility in any UFO clip that, maybe it's a drone or a weather balloon, but for this one, I am out of ideas, and I am more likely to say it's a demon than anything else. So I am officially turning this one over to you guys, comment section. If you can crack this case, you are more than welcome to be my guest, and please let me know if you got any theories or ideas about this one, because I am fresh out of them. Number 3, Guadalajara. Our next video is going to be taking us down to Mexico, in Guadalajara specifically. Originally posted to TikTok, the video is pretty clear, refreshingly for UFO clips. You can see something bizarre flying around in the sky, with a series of lights flashing in a circular, almost like honeycomb-esque pattern hovering above the city. Surveying? Just checking things out? Got lost and should have taken a right turn at Albuquerque? A commenter on the video shot down the idea of it being an airplane, which I know most of you were probably thinking while you're watching this, saying that they've worked in an airfield their whole life and they've never seen an aircraft that had lights on it like that, and it didn't have a beacon on it, a giveaway that it wasn't a plane. Now, some had suggested a possibility that it could be a collection of drones all flying together in unison, but for what purpose, I could not tell you. A very complicated hoax? A military operation? Just for kicks? I think what's getting me about this clip is that the UAP flies in a perfectly straight line, but isn't a plane. I don't know enough about drones to dispute this, but I can't imagine it'd be easy to get a ton of drones all moving in a perfect formation like that, but maybe it actually is very easy and I'm just ignorant. All I know is that this clip is definitely weird, and I've watched it approximately 100 times, pausing and yelling at my editor to zoom and enhance, like I'm a CSI guy. If anyone in the comments can translate what's being said in the video, maybe that'll help out. Although I imagine it's mostly people just saying, look at that weird thing in the sky, what is that? And I feel like you've probably got more than enough of that from me in this video already. Number 2, South Africa. Our next clip is down in Zambia, South Africa, and it honestly looks like an arrival scene that came out of a movie. We can see 4 blindingly bright lights slowly coming forward in the night sky, offering absolutely no clue as to what this could possibly be. Now, the usual drone theory is definitely possible. We can consider this could be 4 drones moving in unison or something, but I don't know. It seems too perfect to be drones. Now, since it is in South Africa, I would be more than a little concerned that this could possibly be the prawns touching down, and I hope we all learned a very important lesson from District 9 about how to treat our alien friends. The clip in question also features an amazing narration, and I don't know how much of it we're allowed to include in here.
A lot of you are so smart, you're so intelligent. Tell me what this is. These things are so aligned How does this happen?
But you can hear the camera guy just absolutely going off in like the funniest rant about how no one can explain what he's seeing, and if you'd like to come down and explain it for him, he includes his like GPS coordinates and everything. It is so funny, definitely worth looking up later. Now, some skeptics in the comment section have pointed out that this could very well be as easily explainable as lights from a crane or a lamppost on a football field or something, and yeah, it definitely does seem possible, but I'd like to see the same location in the daytime, see what's happening there. But it could also be something completely mysterious touching down and coming forward, and if you're so smart, you explain it to him. That's what he says in the thing. It's so funny. And number 1, Tom DeLonge sighting. Now, I'm including this next one for a couple reasons. First and foremost, it's a very impressive clip of a UFO flying around, and when you watch it in a second, you'll understand where I'm coming from. But secondly, because it was shared by Tom DeLonge, and I just love the fact that after selling out who knows how many warped tours, the Blink-182 frontman spends his days looking for all the small things in the sky. That's a little Blink-182 joke for you. In his Instagram post, Tom writes that this clip changed the world. I'll let you decide for yourself. Now, for what it's worth, this clip really is something. DeLonge included several alterations to the little clip. We got some thermals, enhancements, stabilization, and yet none of it really helps too much at being able to figure out just what exactly this is, if not a flying saucer. We can see this thing zipping around in the sky, and then it seemingly activates like warp speed because it just vanishes in the sky, going back to the mothership, I guess. Now, if you're looking at this and you think maybe it looks a little bit too good and you're like CGI radar is starting to go off, you are not entirely alone, because some commenters on this clip said that it looks too good and were suspicious. Doubly so because, well, Tom DeLonge has spoken rather openly about his hopes to eventually turn his To the Stars research group into a multimedia empire, including movies and television and all sorts of stories to broadcast the truth. So it wouldn't be completely inconceivable that perhaps this could be faked. Although if you really did see a UFO, wouldn't it look fake to your eyes, It would look like something literally out of this world, and your brain would probably be scrambling a bit trying to make any sense of it whatsoever. One has to wonder, do you think there's ever been any like totally genuine UFO footage that has been dismissed and labeled as fake CGI because it just looks too perfect? Like, imagine we finally find aliens and we just dismiss them. Number 5, the craft's shot down. It has been a huge year for UFO enthusiasts like yours truly. Earlier, we got the release of the UAP reports from the Pentagon, which were basically the wildest documents in US government history, where the Pentagon confirmed they've been researching UFOs and kind of just slid it under the door like nobody cared. It made UFOs more than tinfoil hat talk, almost made discussions about it reputable. And I guess since then, that wasn't enough to keep us all entertained. As of last week, we've turned things up even more, since we've had 2 mysterious aircrafts shot down, and the United States and Canadian governments are being pretty cagey about it. So let's run through a quick timeline of what hopefully doesn't turn out to be Independence Day, and let's all pray we didn't kickstart an intergalactic war. On February 10th, a US fighter jet brought down a currently unidentified object soaring over the coast of Alaska. The object shattered into pieces after being shot down and was confirmed to most likely not be a balloon, according to the Department of Defense. I guess that's good to know, or not at all, since it doesn't answer anybody's questions. A White House official referred to the object as being the size of a small car, with enough room for a family of 4 to 5 aliens to fit comfortably, and you can put the back seat up and put some stuff in the storage. This would already be enough to fuel speculation for 10 years, and then literally the next day, February 11th, another unidentified flying object was shot down, this time over Canada, around the Yukon. That's the province that borders Alaska. A US flown F-22 Raptor shot down the second object, which was described as smaller than the first and cylindrical in nature. Okay, well, that's all the weird stuff that happened this week. Nope, because on the 12th, another strange object was shot shot down over Lake Huron. An object that first had appeared over Montana appeared on Sunday, which was then shot down. It was octagonal, apparently, and it had strings hanging off of it, but it wasn't carrying anything, so no one knows why. Maybe it was just an Amazon drone. Now, things keep getting weirder, I swear to you. Listen to this next part, you're not gonna believe this. When an Air Force commander, Glenn Van Herk, was asked directly on whether or not he thought any of these objects were alien in nature, he said, "I haven't ruled anything out at this point." What? I can't even speak, but the current sitting government officials are like, hey, maybe it's aliens, shrugging their shoulders. Is this it, guys? Is this it? They didn't specify whether or not these objects posed a threat. They said they just posed a threat to civilian air traffic, but the White House did say that these objects were broadcasting signals. I would say watch this space for updates, but really just like watch regular space. At this rate, there's gonna be an alien every single day. But if you can't wait for any more and you just want to watch alien videos all day, I completely agree with you. That's what I do every day and it's great. We've gotten loads of alien and UFO vids, NASA conspiracies, and hey, if that's not your jam, we got scary stories, horror movies, monsters, cryptids, true crime, baby, we got just about everything spooky under the sun and above it. So stay subscribed to Top 5 Scary, but most importantly, stay scared. But subscribe after. We gotta finish this video first. We got way more alien footage to get through. Moving on. Number 4, the Picket Post, Arizona sighting. Well, with all of this stuff flying around in the sky these days, is it any surprise that people are catching more weird footage than ever before? The UFO subreddit has been lit up like fireworks on the 4th of July with all kinds of alien sightings from all across the globe. Come take a look at some of the best ones I've seen this week. Hopefully they're new to you as well. Our first sighting comes to us from a redditor by the username of MaxKeller96, and they posted a short clip from Picket Post, Arizona that's got us talking. Take a quick little look-see. This is one of the better ones I've seen in a minute. Here's what the redditor had to say about the clip. My sister, dad, and I were out hiking near Picket Post when one of us noticed something glimmering near the mountain, so we stopped to take a look at it. All I could make out was that it was a small bright dot in the sky. After a good 15 seconds of staring, I started recording. It then dropped what looked like 2 flares, though my sister swears she counted at least 3. Up until that point, I thought it might have been a helicopter, as there's all sorts of army stuff out there, but there's no way anything can accelerate that fast. We all lost sight of it nearly instantly after the video cuts, and we were pretty freaked out about it. I've replayed it about 100 times, and I've tried showing it to everyone, and no one has any idea other than that it could be a super advanced drone. So, if you think you know, please let me know. Well, you heard the guy. If you think you have any ideas to what's going on, you comment down below or jump into the Reddit thread and participate in the UFO discussion. The UFO subreddit is great, and they're very friendly to new visitors. That's like their whole thing. They really want to welcome new visitors. Number 3, the San Diego sighting. The San Diego and Tijuana sighting, to be more accurate. Our next entry is a pretty interesting one, because it isn't just one offhanded sighting that happened in the middle of the night by somebody stumbling out in a bathrobe who's half awake, but it's a corroborated sighting that was happening seemingly across the cities of Tijuana and San Diego. And it wasn't even while Comic-Con was happening, so this isn't part of an extremely elaborate campaign for Ant-Man 4 or anything. So we either have a mass hallucination on our hands because there was something in the water, or there's some questions in the sky that need to get answered. So we'll play a few seconds of some of these clips and help you come to your own conclusions. On September 19th, 2022, several of these videos were captured of these bizarre light patterns darting across the sky. This is a massive sighting, so we can't quite dismiss this as a trick of the light or one isolated incident. There was definitely something weird flying up and around. What makes this kind of notable, besides from, how well documented this is I would say the pattern of the lights. They don't really follow like a flare pattern at all, so I don't think it's something that was dropped from an aircraft. When you watch it, they almost kind of seem to move in like a perfect unison, like flashy geese. The original poster who posted the compilation clip to Reddit added as well that another oddity they noted was that after the lights were seen, and military fighter jets surrounding and circling the skies, probably to round up whatever was going on. So, comment section, I'll throw it back to you again. What do you think? Spy drones, weird paranormal lights, or is it just visitors? I think it's alien tourists who heard what a great time a weekend in Tijuana is and want to check it out. Could you imagine if aliens do come to Earth, but they're not really interested in like diplomatic relations or starting a war or anything? They're just like, we heard you guys party hard and we want in on that. Number 2, Michigan and Grand Grand Park. Another very weird sighting coming from Reddit. This one was posted not even 2 days ago by a Redditor with a very funny username I can't read out loud on YouTube, but just know it was very funny. At first, it kind of looks like a piece of litter that somehow managed to get all the way up in the sky and is fluttering and darting all around. But if you take a closer look at it, it really seems like it's moving like it's being controlled. People in the comments of the subreddit quickly pointed out that a similar object to this showed up in Australia when this one's filmed in Michigan. Isn't that odd? 2 of these similar reports happening on almost opposite ends of the world. People in the subreddit theorize that this object in the video is one of the ones that was shot down over Lake Huron, which definitely makes sense. Lake Huron is, you know, in Michigan. Could this be some of the last footage of this alien craft before it got burnt up? From this clip, I would say to me personally, it looks like some sort of hyper advanced drone, maybe more than a piloted craft. It looks very small, so unless there's like a really teeny tiny little alien inside there, I don't know. But with all cell phone footage, you know, it's kind of impossible to ascertain the size of the thing. I think this one's pretty conclusive personally, and if this really is footage of the object that was shot down over Lake Huron, I would say the United States and Canadian governments agree with my assessment as well. But as all of these clips, please let me know what you think it is. If it's a drone or an alien or maybe just a really impressive kite that accidentally got destroyed. Number 1, the Columbia sighting. Now, our number 1 sighting is another international one. You think aliens are only going to show up around North America? Come on, expand your worldview a bit. If aliens invade, they're going to go after the whole planet. There's a whole lot to see, a whole lot of things that get burned down with lasers. And it seems like they were curious about the countryside of Colombia, because this footage out of Bogota, Colombia is truly out of this world. Seriously, this is like the most impressive UFO footage I've ever seen in my life. It was captured by a pro photographer who sent it along to a friend of his who's a YouTuber. Hey, reach out, let's collab. In the hopes of getting it to more eyes and people who can analyze it. And yeah, seriously, this is one of the most convincing things I've ever seen. Take a look. Now, I don't want to, you know, poke the bear too much. I know this sounds kind of annoying. I am almost of the belief that this footage is simply too good. I wouldn't outright throw it away and discard it, but I can't remember the last time I've ever seen UFO footage where the craft in this question is this clear and easy to make out. You can almost like make out sci-fi parts of it, you know? It looks to me like it wouldn't look too out of place in a cool video game like a Halo or something. If anyone's a Metroid fan, it reminds me a lot of like the ship that Samus flies around in. I'm just excited because they put Metroid Prime back out there. I think this raises kind of an interesting question and sort of a little like food for thought for debate. As camera quality improves and the average person is now at all times carrying with them a camera that rivals most professional quality, no doubt we're gonna start seeing more stuff like this. There's gonna be an influx of footage that starts to look much clearer, which then ironically ends up getting dismissed because it just looks too good and we assume it's been faked. We're used to blurry blobs shooting across the sky, and I think that's what we kind of think UFOs look like. It's a bit of a weird horseshoe where you kind of want alien footage to look bad so it's more believable. I don't know, maybe I'm just rambling, maybe it all makes sense, but let me know what you think about this one. I think this is absolutely nuts, and I think this is the most exciting time to be into UFOs and UAPs as a whole, because it really feels like we're getting a breakthrough pretty soon. But maybe I just want to believe.
Number 5. Nick Pope. Nick Pope served in the British Ministry of Defense, aka the MOD, and was actively engaged in the investigation of UFO reports. During his tenure at the MOD from 1985 to 2006, Pope held the position of a civil servant, specializing in defense and security issues. His role in the UFO desk of the MOD from 1991 to 1994 brought him to the forefront of analyzing and assessing unidentified aerial phenomena that was reported by civilians and military personnel. Pope's responsibilities included the examination of UFO sightings, compiling reports, and offering insights into the potential national security implications of such incidents. His work involved liaising with various government agencies, intelligence services, and international counterparts to comprehensively evaluate the data surrounding UFO encounters. After his government service, Pope transitioned into the public domain and became a recognized figure in the discussion surrounding UFOs. His extensive background in government service and his intimate involvement in the investigation of UFO reports provided him with unique perspectives. Pope's decision to share his insights and knowledge with the public contributed to his emergence as a prominent commentator on UFO-related issues. Pope's public commentary extends beyond his own experiences, exploring broader discussions and topics surrounding the existence of extraterrestrial phenomena, government transparency, and the need for a more systematic approach to studying and understanding UFOs. His articulate and measured presentations have positioned him as a go-to source for media outlets seeking informed perspectives on the subject. Nick Pope does not claim any personal witness witnessed 2 UFO events. His role in the bureaucratic machinery of the British Ministry of Defense and following transition into public UFO discourse have added a valuable, interesting layer to the ongoing dialogue about unidentified aerial phenomena. His contributions, grounded in factual information and analytical acumen, continue to shape the narrative around UFOs and their significance in the realms of national security and public awareness. Number 4. Luis Elizondo. Luis Elizondo, a former intelligence officer, served as the director of the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, or the AATIP, at the Pentagon. His position in the government ended in his decision to resign from the Pentagon, a departure that marked a pivotal moment in his public disclosure of information regarding unidentified aerial phenomena. Elizondo's background in intelligence and his leadership role within the ATIP provided him with personal, anecdotal, and unique insights into matters pertaining to unidentified aerial threats. Following his resignation, he transitioned from a position of government authority to becoming a prominent figure in the public discourse on UAP. Elizondo's decision to step forward and share his knowledge contributed to the growing awareness and discussion surrounding unidentified aerial phenomena. His revelations did not merely focus on acknowledging the existence of UAPs, but extended to discussions about the need for increased transparency and research into these phenomena. Yes, Elizondo. Yay. Elizondo's influential public statements, interviews, and engagements in various forums became key in shaping the narrative around UAP, influencing public perception and generating widespread interest in the subject. Elizondo's credibility was further amped by his association with the Pentagon's ATIP, a program specifically established to investigate and analyze unidentified aerial threats. This institutional connection added weight to his disclosures and positioned him as a central figure capable of offering informed perspectives on the matter. Elizondo participated in interviews, documentaries, and public events, disseminating information and advocating for a more comprehensive understanding of these aerial phenomena. His role in the public sphere marked a departure from the customary secrecy surrounding such matters within government agencies. While controversies and debates surround the nature of UAP and their potential implications, Luis Elizondo's shift from a discrete government role to a public advocate marked a significant chapter in the ongoing dialogue about unidentified aerial phenomena. Number 3. John Callahan. John Callahan, the former division chief of the Accidents and Investigations branch of the Federal Aviation Administration, made claims that he had received information about a UFO sighting from Japanese pilots. According to Callahan, the government was involved in a cover-up, concealing crucial evidence related to this otherworldly encounter. Callahan's claims surrounded an incident that occurred in the late 1980s, which involved Japanese airline pilots reporting a close encounter with an unidentified flying object. The details of the sighting raised questions regarding the possible existence of extraterrestrial life and the government's role in suppressing such information. Callahan said that the FAA had indisputable evidence, including radar data and audio recordings of communication between the pilots and air traffic controllers. Callahan's claims were built on the foundation that the government intentionally withheld this information from the public, which further sparked concerns about transparency and accountability from the government. His claims fueled already bountiful suspicions among UFO enthusiasts and conspiracy theorists who believe that governments worldwide are actively concealing evidence of extraterrestrial encounters. Callahan's credibility lent weight and plausibility to his claims. As a former high-ranking official within the FAA, he held a position that frequently granted him access to extremely sensitive information and insider knowledge. His decision to come forward and expose the cover-up added a sense of authenticity to the narrative. Skepticism and scrutiny quickly followed Callahan's publicized revelations. People questioned the reliability of the evidence and questioned the motivations behind his disclosure. Some argued that the claims were sensationalist and lacked the necessary evidence to substantiate them. The absence of concrete proof beyond Callahan's testimony left room for doubt. The case brought attention to the greater issues of UFO disclosure and transparency within government agencies. It fueled public demand for greater openness regarding unidentified aerial phenomena, prompting calls for the declassification of documents. John Callahan's claims opened a safe of speculation, inviting closer examination of the relationship between officials and the mysteries of the sky. Number 2. Edgar Mitchell. Edgar Mitchell, a distinguished astronaut who was part of the Apollo 14 mission, left a mark not only on the lunar surface, but also in ufology and conspiracies of government secrecy. In 2008, Mitchell openly shared his suspicions regarding the existence of extraterrestrial life, and made allegations of a cover-up. Mitchell's cosmic revelation was rooted in his very unique perspective, as he was one of the few individuals who had ventured beyond our planet's confines. Having spent a total of 9 hours on the moon's surface, Mitchell's experiences ignited a level of curiosity that had never been seen before. His claim that extraterrestrial life exists was grounded in the belief that the vastness of the universe universe makes it statistically improbable for Earth to be the sole harbor of life, which, I agree with. It is so insane to me that some people think we are the only sentient life in our literally giant universe. It was Mitchell's claim of a government cover-up that catapulted his allegations into a realm of controversy and subjected him to severe skepticism. According to Mitchell, high-ranking officials were aware of the presence of extraterrestrial beings, but actively chose to conceal this information from the public. Their secrecy, he argued, was motivated by concerns over societal upheaval and the potential impact on established power structures. Mitchell's claims are situated within the broader context of UFO conspiracy theories and a long-standing distrust of governmental transparency. While his status as an astronaut lends a sense of credibility to his statements, people often remind others that Mitchell's assertions lack concrete evidence. The absence of verifiable proof has led many to dismiss his claims as influenced by personal beliefs rather than factual occurrences. Despite the skepticism surrounding Mitchell's allegations, they have sparked discussions about the possibility of extraterrestrial life and the extent of government knowledge on the matter.
Starting off with the Aztec UFO crash in 1948. A year after the infamous Roswell incident, a mysterious disc-shaped object was said to have crashed in the small town of Aztec, New Mexico. Rumors circulated of a seamless metallic craft 99 feet in diameter with no visible means of propulsion. Inside, humanoid bodies, eerily not of this earth, reportedly lay lifeless. The government's swift action to secure the site and allegedly cover up the incident has fueled conspiracy theories and debate among UFO enthusiasts for decades. Is there truth to these extraordinary claims, or is it all an elaborate hoax? Stay tuned as we examine the evidence, hear eyewitness accounts, and explore the secrets of the Aztec UFO crash. It's no secret that incidents involving unidentified flying objects have captivated people for decades. From the Roswell incident to the Phoenix Lights, UFO sightings and crashes have been shrouded in mystery and controversy. One of the most famous and well-known cases is the UFO crash in Aztec. The small town in New Mexico was thrust into the spotlight in 1948 when reports emerged of the disc-shaped object crashing into the area. And the government's swift response in securing the site and keeping it under tight control only added fuel to the fire. Many believe that the government was trying to cover up evidence of extraterrestrial life, while others dismissed the whole incident as a hoax. But despite the controversy and skepticism surrounding the Aztec UFO crash, there are some compelling pieces of evidence that suggest something out of the ordinary did indeed occur in Aztec. From eyewitness accounts to physical evidence found at the site, there are many aspects that cannot be easily explained away. However, the truth behind the Aztec UFO crash remains elusive. Some believe that it was a genuine extraterrestrial spacecraft, while others argue that it was a top secret military project gone wrong. Regardless of what actually happened in 1948, the incident continues to capture the imagination and spark debate among UFO enthusiasts. Next up, Kecksburg, 1965. The small town of Kecksburg, Pennsylvania garnered national attention when a fiery object crashed in the woods. The military swiftly cordoned off the area, sparking rumors of a UFO retrieval operation. Located in Westmoreland County, Pennsylvania, Kecksburg is a small town with a population of just over 1,000 people. However, on the evening of December 9th, 1965, this quiet town would experience a strange and mysterious event that would capture the attention of the nation. Eyewitnesses described seeing a fireball streak across the sky before crashing into the woods just outside of town. Many reported hearing a loud explosion and feeling the ground shake upon impact. The local fire department was immediately dispatched to the area along with police officers and paramedics. However, when they arrived at the crash site, they were met with a surprising sight. Military personnel had already cordoned off the area and were not allowing anyone to enter. Rumors immediately began to spread that a UFO had crashed in Kecksburg and that the military was conducting a retrieval operation. These rumors were fueled by witness testimonies of seeing strange metallic debris scattered throughout the crash site. Despite these claims, official statements from the military claimed that nothing out of the ordinary had occurred and that the object was simply a meteorite. However, many people remained skeptical and believed that the military was covering up a potential extraterrestrial encounter. To this day, the incident in Kecksburg remains a mystery and continues to be a subject of debate among UFO enthusiasts and skeptics alike. While some argue that it was just a case of mistaken identity or a natural event, others believe that something otherworldly crashed in the small town that night. The Kecksburg incident serves as a reminder of the enduring fascination with UFOs and the ongoing search for answers about potential extraterrestrial life. It also sheds light on how quickly rumors can spread and how conflicting information can cause confusion and speculation. Next is the Shag Harbor in 1967. This Canadian incident is unique because it involves an unidentified object that crashed into the sea. Both civilians and government officials reported seeing an unusual object descend into the water, and subsequent military divers allegedly retrieved it. The Shag Harbor incident remains one of the most well-documented cases of a UFO crash in history. The event took place on the night of October 4th, 1967 in the small fishing village of Shag Harbor, Nova Scotia. The incident was witnessed by multiple individuals including fishermen, RCMP officers, and local residents. According to witnesses, they saw a bright object streak across the sky before disappearing into the waters of Shag Harbor. Some described it as a large glowing object with a red light on one side and 4 white lights on the other. The initial reports sparked a massive search and rescue operation, as it was believed that an aircraft had crashed into the sea. However, no debris or wreckage was ever found, leading authorities to conclude that the object must have sunk deep into the water. Despite extensive investigations by Canadian military forces and UFO researchers, the Shag Harbor incident remains an unsolved mystery. The lack of physical evidence and eyewitness testimonies make it difficult to determine the true nature of the object that crashed into the sea. Some theories suggest that it could have been a piece of Soviet or American military equipment, while others speculate that it was an extraterrestrial spacecraft. However, there is no concrete evidence to support these claims. Over the years, the Shag Harbor incident has gained international attention and has been featured in numerous documentaries, books, and TV shows. It remains a popular topic among UFO enthusiasts and continues to spark debates and discussions about the existence of extraterrestrial life. Berwin Mountains, 1974. In Wales, a large explosion was heard and a mysterious object was seen hurtling towards the Berwin Mountains. The British government denied any UFO involvement, but many believe that the CIA was involved in the recovery operation. The incident at the mountains in 1974 is shrouded in mystery and controversy. Some theories suggest that the explosion and sighting of a mysterious object could have been caused by a crashed military aircraft, while others claim it was a deliberate cover-up by the government. The Berwin Mountains incident sparked the interest of UFO enthusiasts and conspiracy theorists who continue to investigate and debate the events that took place. The lack of concrete evidence and conflicting reports only add fuel to the speculation surrounding this mysterious event. Despite the passage of time, the Berwin Mountains incident remains a popular topic among those interested in paranormal phenomena. The area has even become a hotspot for UFO sightings, with some claiming that there is a connection between the 1974 incident and the frequent sightings in recent areas. Whether or not the truth behind the Berwin Mountains incident will ever be fully revealed remains to be seen, but one thing is certain: it has captured the imagination of many and continues to intrigue and fascinate to this day. The Berwin Mountains incident serves as a reminder that there is still so much unknown and unexplained in the world, leaving room for endless speculation and theories. As technology advances and our understanding of the universe deepens, perhaps one day we finally will have definitive answers about what truly happened on that fateful night in 1974. Who knows what other secrets may be hidden in the depths of this mysterious mountain range? Only time will tell. So let's keep our minds open and continue to explore, question, and wonder about the unknown mysteries that surround us. The Berwin Mountains incident is a reminder that the truth is often stranger than fiction, and that there may be more to this world than what meets the eye. It serves as a testament to our never-ending quest for answers and understanding, and a reminder of the endless possibilities that await us in this vast universe. The city of Varginha, located in the state of Minas Gerais, became known worldwide for a series of alleged extraterrestrial incidents that occurred in 1996. The story goes that on January 20th, 3 young girls claimed to have seen an alien creature with large red eyes and strange markings on its skin. It is said that the being was captured by the military and taken to a local hospital, where it later passed away. It is believed that this event was not an isolated incident. Residents of Varginha reported seeing strange lights in the sky and hearing loud noises on the same day. Some even claimed to have seen more than one creature roaming the city. The story gained so much attention that it caught the interest of all the media and ufologists who traveled to Varginha to investigate. The Brazilian government initially denied any involvement in the incident, but many conspiracy theories emerged. Some believe that the US government was responsible for covering up the truth and that they secretly retrieved evidence of extraterrestrial life from Varginha. Others claim that the creatures were actually escaped laboratory animals from a nearby military base. Despite the lack of concrete evidence, the alleged events in Varginha continue to captivate people's imaginations and fuel debates about the existence of extraterrestrial life. The case has been featured in numerous documentaries and is still a popular topic among UFO enthusiasts. The city of Varginha even hosts an an annual UFO festival drawing in tourists from all over the world. Whether one believes in the Virginia incident or not, it is clear that the story has left a lasting impact on the city and its residents. It serves as a reminder of our fascination with the unknown. Who knows what other mysteries may be waiting to be uncovered in cities around the world. Until then, Virginia remains a fascinating and mysterious place, shrouded in questions and speculation. So keep your eyes open. You never know what might be just around the corner.
Number 5. Red Eyeball Ship. In January of this year, a man in Spokane, Washington was in his living room when he happened to sight a strange alien craft that caused him to question his beliefs and his place in the universe. In his own words, "Our backyard camera recorded this strange object. We put a camera in our backyard because stuff has been coming up missing. But one morning I had the TV on in my living room as I was sitting on our couch. I happened to look up at the TV and saw this strange object. I went out on the back porch and I couldn't see that object at all. But when I went back in the house, it was still there. I went to get my brother to show him what I was seeing. He didn't know what it was, but he was seeing it too. Then it started to move out in the field, where I didn't see it anymore. Then it started to come back towards my backyard. Again, it looks round with a red eyeball in the middle, but I have no clue to this day what it is. I took a couple photos in infrared. If you look in the center of the red, you can see something. Looking at the photos, it is difficult to come up with another explanation for what this strange unidentified flying object could be. Number 4. An American UFO. Our next tale was posted this year, but details an experience from the year 1980. The witness shared his story of seeing a UFO that seemed to be affiliated with the US government, but he also posits a theory about why the government would allow this ship to be seen by the public. I had a sighting in broad daylight in 1980 at around 9 a.m. in early December. My mom and hundreds of other motorists witnessed it as well. We were driving to visit my father at his work in Beverly Hills and were waiting to hop on the freeway in Santa Monica when we saw your classic silver disc. It hovered completely still at about 150 feet or so for 10 solid minutes. Remember, we were crawling, slow as molasses traffic. We got a very good look at this thing. On the underside was stenciled US Air Force. It looked very official, and we assumed it had to be one of ours. Then, after hovering for 10 minutes, it shot off towards the southwest like a bullet. I've never seen anything move so fast in my life. It was shocking, but I have a theory as to what the craft was doing there and why we witnessed it. I don't know how familiar you are with Jimmy Carter on the issue of UFOs, but he is on record as having had a sighting of his own in 1973. Carter was no flake. He had a degree in nuclear physics and is a former naval officer, retired at the rank of lieutenant, which in the Navy is like the Army equivalent of a major. Rank promotions are much harder and time-consuming in the Navy. Anyhow, Carter tried like hell to get disclosure during his presidency. He knew he was being stonewalled. When you think about it, it's unacceptable that the nation's most powerful elected leader cannot declassify something that the public, the world, has a right to know about. But what I've come to believe is that Carter ordered a captured or back-engineered UFO with official Air Force insignia to fly over a populated area, where thousands were waiting in traffic to get on the freeway, so people would ask the questions he couldn't find the answers to. Number 3. Father and son UFO bonding. Next, we have a story from Nova Scotia, where a young man saw an alien craft and panicked. He thought that no one would believe him until his father told him about his own close encounter from years before. Here is his story. My living room at the time had a window above me behind the TV. So, I am watching TV. I don't remember what exactly. It was about 2:30 or 3 a.m. at this point. My father got up to use the washroom and went back to bed. I got up to get a drink and saw something out of the corner of my eye, outside the window and above the high school. I literally could walk outside my house, take 2 steps, and I was on school property. I see this light above the school. I figured it was a meteor shower or space junk. I grabbed the binoculars. I looked out the window to see if I could see it. I couldn't really get a good look. It was too blurry through the window. So I went outside to have a look. It was not very bright in my small town. I look out towards the school. I see something I can only describe as a ball metal, almost like a flowing liquid metal. but to my eyes seemed like it was taking the form of a sphere, condensing in on itself from time to time and rippling. As if the surface rippled like water, the light from it appeared that way. It was circular, bright, white, almost silvery. At times, it seemed that the light coming from it had faded, and I could see that it was a solid sphere, silver in appearance. I do not know how big it would be. A guess would be the size of a two-seater passenger plane. It darted from above the school to the hospital in a blink of an eye. The distance was about 1/4 of a kilometer, but on a somewhat linear path. I had my eyes glued to it, and it blinked out of existence. It is the only way I can describe it. I could no longer see it. I scanned around the sky with the binoculars, then found it was above a church about a full kilometer away. Same strange ball rippling like metal. I was outside for, I believe, 25 to 30 minutes. Based on my coming back in between 3:30 a.m. and 4 a.m. My brain could not comprehend what I was seeing. I literally thought I was dreaming or experiencing some kind of hallucination. I felt as if what I was seeing was straight out of a movie or sci-fi book. It was like it was darting around our entire town at random intervals, going from one part to another within the blink of an eye. The distance it traveled from the school to the hospital to the church is in total 1.4 kilometers. I snapped, and for some reason started crying. I ran to my dad and woke him up. "It's a satellite," is what he said. My father enjoyed watching stuff on UFOs and personally believed the US government covered something up about Roswell, but I never really said too much. He told me to go to sleep. I was terrified, for whatever reason. I was so scared after it. I did not sleep for months unless one of my parents was awake while I fell asleep. I really struggled with whatever I experienced that night for a very long time. It was a horrific experience for me and hard to even talk about. I had extreme anxiety and depression from it. I was only a teenager, just barely. I found myself being paranoid. I did not want to be alone at all. Anywhere, in the daytime, I would make sure I always knew where someone was. I was never alone. I was so afraid, I started saying prayers. I spent the next 5 years looking at everything I could that was related to UFOs. The sensation I had from it. I felt a oneness kind of, but also so completely overwhelmed with fear. It felt as if my skin was trying to escape my body. My spine burned, and the entire time I was filled with thoughts of, this is amazing, and I'm going to die. I need to get in the house. All the hair on my body was standing up. I was sweating. When I got in the house, my shirt was nearly stuck to me in sweat. My father thought I went outside and got attacked and ran away. I was crying and rambling about some craft in the sky and how it was going to get me. My father told me he never saw anyone so absolutely terrified before, that I was nervous and would look out the windows at night to make sure I was okay. I've never been so afraid in my life of anything. My body was telling me I was going to die. My father didn't like me waking him so I could sleep. My mother, well, was not in the picture. My father's reaction is based off of a sighting he had in the 70s that some people in the town saw. He was ridiculed by people for talking about the craft he saw so close to the ground it looked like it was going to land in the blink of an eye. It darted off and was gone. He said it was circular in shape, like the classic UFO, glowed bright yellow, and had a low hum to it. He doesn't really like talking about it. Number 2. Another father-son tale. Next, we have a story from a man who was not a believer in alien life until one night his young son pointed out something in the night sky to him. In his own words, "I was in my home in Almond, Michigan. That time of year, it gets quite dark quite early. It must have been around 8 p.m. My son, who at the time was 12, came running into the house, saying there was a UFO right outside our house. Let me add, at this point, I was not one who believed in UFOs. I went outside and my son pointed south and upwards and said, 'Look.' The funny thing was, at first I didn't see anything, but I did notice it was unusually dark. Then I noticed a very dim light. I suddenly realized that the reason it was so dark was that there was a huge craft right over our driveway. It was at tree level and was moving north at a very slow pace, approximately a slow walking speed. There was a very distinct humming, exactly like a large transformer humming. There was a very dull light in the middle, and as it traveled down our driveway, I made out a row of windows around the craft. The windows looked very large. I remember walking down the driveway with my son. The next thing I remember is standing out in the field north of my house, still looking at the UFO, when suddenly it went from approximately 90 or 100 feet straight up in the sky to where it was a pinpoint of light. It just looked like another star. This happened in under a second. We continued to watch it for quite a while when it took off in a northwesterly direction, like a meteor, and was gone in a second. There are a lot of things I can describe if you are interested, but this is the basic part. I don't feel like I was abducted, but honestly, I do not remember how I got from my driveway and then into the field. Number 1. Bigfoot, Alien Hunter. Our final story is perhaps the most insane sounding story I've ever read. It began when a group of friends went to stay in a cabin in Missoula, Montana. At first, everything seemed normal until they looked to the sky after dinner on their first night, as one of the witnesses reported. Right there, hovering above the meadow at almost the level of the hills off in the distance, it appeared to be a triangular shape / sphere shaped like an arrowhead. It had a flashing red light at each point and they flashed at the same time. Slowly, the craft started turning until it was pointing right in our direction. We all squealed with nervousness. We all convinced ourselves and each other that it was much too far away and that there was no way it could see us. Jason got up and turned the outside lights off. Then, the object turned off its lights. When Jason turned them back on, it did as well. They did this a few more times, with the craft always copying their actions. Then, with no warning, it just shot forward and then came to a dead stop over top of us, and when it stopped that quickly, it seemed that the momentum made the front end point downwards right at us. The group ran inside and hid, with one of them eventually working up the courage to look out the window, only to see yet another rare sight. Bigfoot. The witness kept quiet about this because, you know, one thing at a time, but that night heard bipedal footsteps on the roof of the cabin. The next morning, 2 of the friends went to the river to fish, and the others had coffee on the porch, but looked to the tree line and saw the drivers of the alien craft. I saw as clear as day what is commonly called a gray alien. Its big bulbous head was peeking out from behind a tree, and I saw its dark almond-shaped eyes and the tiny nose with 2 very small holes. I'm not sure if it felt me looking at it, but it slowly moved back behind the tree. At that point, the fishermen came running back, saying that they had crossed paths with Bigfoot again. 40 feet into the woods of mainly ponderosa pine, they saw the Bigfoot. It walked step by step with them, and then it looked over at them and realized they were watching it. That's when it started walking towards them. They started running, and they saw that it was walking as quickly as they ran. When they made it through the woods, they got to a clearing. They ran with everything they had. They said it was dark brown in color and maybe 7 feet tall. Its hair was bushy in spots. Most people go their entire lives without seeing aliens, Bigfoot, or UFOs, so the fact that this trip to the cabin resulted in a hat trick is pretty impressive. If this is true, why was Bigfoot so close to an alien craft? Is he perhaps an alien as well? Is he a Wookiee?
Today we have something truly mind-boggling in store for you. We'll be delving into the uncharted territory of UFO footage that has left even the most astute scientists on the edge of their seats. This isn't your ordinary flying saucer sighting. Prepare for a journey into the unknown as we go through footage that has sparked debates and raised eyebrows in the scientific community. First off, Pentagon's UFO tracking efforts still find no alien origins. We're starting off with some revelations from the Pentagon. The head of their UFO Incidents Investigation Office has testified to Congress, and it seems they've got 650 cases on their hands right now. And before you ask, apparently they've found no evidence of extraterrestrial life yet, or at least that's what they want us to believe. Right in the middle of a rare open congressional hearing on what the Pentagon is calling unexplained anomalous phenomena, or UAPs, they've dropped 2 new videos. They wanted to show how the newly formed All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO, can explain some of these weird occurrences but is left scratching their heads at others. Now, I want to know, have you ever had a close encounter or spotted something in the sky that you just couldn't explain? Maybe you've seen strange lights, unusual shapes, or even alien creatures in real life? Share your experience in the comments. The first video, which is up on the Pentagon's website, is in color and dates back to July 12, 2022 in the Middle East. The second one gives us 2 different views of an incident reported over South Asia on January 15, 2023. The testimony from Kirkpatrick revealed that the AARO is currently reviewing over 650 UAP incidents. That's quite a leap from the 510 the US intelligence community reported in the last UAP report back in January. While the Pentagon has yet to officially recognize these UAPs as evidence of extraterrestrial life, numerous aspects of these videos have intrigued UFO enthusiasts and theorists alike who believe these could indeed be alien encounters. The truth behind these UAPs remains elusive, and the investigations by AARO are ongoing, yet these intriguing intriguing points leave us with more questions than answers. On to the next! For decades, our fascination with extraterrestrial and non-human life has been ignited by Hollywood's sci-fi movies. But today, that enthusiasm is stoked by something far more intriguing: authentic video footage released by none other than the US government. For many years, the idea of life beyond Earth has been a topic of fascination and speculation. From aliens in green spacesuits and giant spaceships, Hollywood has provided us with endless entertainment when it comes to extraterrestrial beings. However, it wasn't until recently that our curiosity was piqued by actual footage released by the US government. The release of authentic video footage showcasing unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs, has caused a stir in the scientific community and among the general public. People are now asking questions about what these objects could be and whether they hold any significance for life beyond our planet. A former Navy pilot who has had first-hand experiences with UAP shared his own encounters and sheds light on the government's investigations into these mysterious flying objects. His advocacy for more government transparency and openness regarding UAP sightings adds another layer to already fascinating topic. So if a Navy pilot is advocating for transparency, that must mean he's seen otherworldly things, right? That's spooky to think about considering how little the government keeps from us about extraterrestrial life. Next up, we're diving into an incident involving another UAP. Picture this: an entity with an uncanny resemblance to a jellyfish effortlessly gliding through a high-security military site before moving over a body of water. Now here's where things get interesting. This UAP then started a calculated descent, submerging itself beneath the water surface. But that's not all. After a suspenseful 17 minutes, this thing resurfaced and darted off into the distance at an incredible speed. Now, according to those who have seen the full footage or were present during this event, this UAP was completely invisible to night vision. Even more bizarre, it seemed to interfere with the targeting capabilities of the optical platform. But perhaps the most intriguing part is it demonstrated a form of positive lift, an ability to hover in the air without any visible means of lift or thrust. No propulsion maneuvers, no signatures, nothing. This incident is just one of many that have been reported and documented by credible sources, raising questions about whether we are alone in this vast universe. With the release of the Pentagon's report on UAPs, the topic has gained even more attention and sparked a renewed interest in the search for ET life. Some theories suggest that these UAPs could be advanced technology from other countries, while others believe they are of extraterrestrial origin. The truth is, we can't definitively say what these objects are or where they come from, but what we do know is that their capabilities far surpass our current technological advancements. One possible explanation for the advanced technology displayed by UAPs is that they are using propulsion systems based on principles beyond our understanding. Another theory suggests that these objects are able to manipulate space-time, allowing them to travel vast distances in a short amount of time. But perhaps the most unsettling thought is that these UAPs could be controlled by intelligent beings who possess knowledge and abilities far beyond our own. If this is true, it raises important questions about our place in the universe and how we should approach the possibility of contact with extraterrestrial life. Continuing our exploration of UAPs, there's another often discussed theories. Some researchers propose that these unidentified objects could be evidence of time travelers from our own future. While this certainly ventures into the realm of science fiction, considering the far superior technological advancements displayed by these UAPs, theory that cannot be dismissed outright. The Customs and Border Patrol have released 10 videos, each one accompanied by a detailed report. These reports, spanning 387 pages, include news extracts and first-hand accounts of encounters with unidentified aerial phenomena. To give you a bit of insight, Chris Mellon, who served previously as a Secretary of Defense for Intelligence officials, believes these videos will help us all understand why these mysterious phenomena have become a matter of national security concern. He explains that these videos and reports are not meant to scare the public, but rather to inform them of potential threats that may be lurking in our skies. He also mentions that while some of these encounters can be explained by natural or man-made occurrences, there are still many cases that remain unexplained. On top of that, the release of these videos has sparked a debate among experts and the general public. Some believe that these phenomena could have extraterrestrial origins, while others argue for more rational explanations. Regardless of one's beliefs, there's no denying the significance of these videos and reports in shedding light on this intriguing topic. Moreover, with advanced technology becoming increasingly accessible to the public, more people are able to capture footage of unidentified aerial phenomena. This has led to a growing interest in the subject and an increase in reported sightings. The release of these videos by the Customs and Border Patrol is just one example of how government agencies are taking this matter seriously and working towards finding answers. The public's fascination with UFOs and extraterrestrial life has only grown over the years. With popular culture constantly referencing aliens and sightings, it's no surprise that these videos have caught the attention of so many. Some may argue that these videos and reports are simply fueling conspiracy theories, but others see them as a step towards uncovering the truth. In addition to the release of these videos, the government has also taken steps towards establishing a formal process for reporting and investigating UFO sightings. This shows a shift in attitude towards the topic and a recognition of its importance. It's clear that there is still much to be learned and understood about these mysterious phenomena, but with continued efforts from both government agencies and the public, we may one day have answers. However, the question remains, why is there such a strong interest in ETs and UFOs? One answer could lie in our inherent human desire to explore and understand the universe. We're naturally curious beings, always seeking answers, especially to the unexplained. There's also a certain thrill attached to the idea of being on the cusp of a great discovery that could change our understanding of life and our place in the universe. Right? And lastly, we have one more fascinating thing to bring to your attention today. NASA shared an intriguing video during a discussion about UFOs. The footage presents what appears to be an unidentified spherical object in flight. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. Military officials have come forward stating they're at a loss. They simply cannot explain the nature of this object. So what do you think it could be? Could it be a top secret military aircraft that is still in its testing phases, or could it possibly be an extraterrestrial spacecraft that has stumbled upon our planet? These are just a couple of the theories floating around regarding this mysterious object, but this isn't the first time something like this has happened. In fact, there have been numerous reports of UFO sightings over the years, with many being dismissed as hoaxes or natural phenomena. However, there are also those that have been left unexplained and continue to baffle scientists and civilians alike. One of the most well-known cases is the Roswell incident in 1947, where a mysterious object crashed near Roswell, New Mexico. The official explanation by the military was that it was a weather balloon, but many believe it was actually a crashed alien spacecraft. This event sparked widespread interest in the topic of UFOs and has fueled numerous conspiracy theories. So what can we expect in the future? With advancements in technology and space exploration, it's possible that we may finally have concrete answers about these sightings.
Number 5. Government-owned UAPs. In July of 2023, 3 former military officials entered a Congress hearing and shook the minds of hundreds of people. David Grusch told the panel that he was absolutely certain that the government was in possession of UAPs. David Grusch is a decorated Afghanistan soldier and former Air Force intelligence officer who worked at the NGA, National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, and the NRO, which is the National Reconnaissance Office, or something like that, sorry. From 2019 to 2021, he was the NRO representative for the UAPT. Remember the organization that came before AARO? Well, David was the co-lead for UAP analysis for the NGA. He assisted in drafting the National Defense Authorization Act of 2023, which includes provisions for the reporting of UFOs, including whistleblower protections and exemptions for non-disclosure orders and agreements. So clearly, he is a very accomplished man, and a man who is extremely knowledgeable of the events and conversations that are taking place in government settings, especially surrounding UAPs and Inhumans. David claimed that he was informed of a multi-decade Pentagon program that sought to locate, collect, and reconstruct UAPs. He interviewed over 40 people in 4 years and has come to the conclusion that the government is currently in possession of UAPs. He said he actually knew the exact location of some of the technology as the information was provided to him, the Inspector General, and some was provided to the intelligence committees. David claims that the program is funded above congressional oversight, being bankrolled by misappropriations of funds, and when asked if it was meant if there was money being taken out of other programs or a cover-up program to hide the funds, David replied in affirmation, stating, "Yes, I have specific knowledge of that." David was unable to release more information regarding the funding as he said it was classified. He stated that that even though he didn't have any first-hand experiments with the UAPs, he knows of several colleagues who have encountered and have been injured by them. The entire hearing was extremely telling as a lot of crazy revelations came to light, but UAPs weren't the only thing the government was accused of possessing, and they definitely weren't the most interesting either. Number 3. John Callahan. John Callahan is the former division chief of the Accidents and Investigations branch of the Federal Aviation Administration, made claims that he had also received information about a UFO sighting from Japanese pilots. According to Callahan, the government was involved in a cover-up, of course, concealing crucial evidence relating to this otherworldly encounter. Callahan claims surrounded an incident that occurred in the late 1980s which involved Japanese airline pilots reporting a close encounter with an unidentified flying object. The details of the sighting raised questions regarding the possible existence of extraterrestrial life and the government's role in suppressing such information. Callahan said that the FAA had indisputable evidence, including radar data and audio recordings of communication between the pilots and air traffic controllers. Callahan claims were built on the foundation that the government intentionally withheld this information from the public, which further sparks concerns about the transparency and accountability from the government. His claim fueled already bountiful suspicions among UFO enthusiasts and conspiracy theorists who believe that the government worldwide are actively concealing evidence of extraterrestrial encounters. Callahan's credibility then lent weight and plausibility to his claims. As a former high-ranking official within the FAA, he held a position that frequently granted him access to extremely sensitive information and insider knowledge. His decision to come forward and expose the cover-up added a sense of authenticity to the narrative, as skepticism and scrutiny quickly followed Callahan's publicized revelations. People questioned the reliability of the evidence and questioned the motivations behind his disclosure, as some argued that the claims were sensationalist and lacked the necessary evidence to substantiate them. The absence of concrete proof beyond the Callahan's testimony left room for doubt, as the case brought attention to the greater issues of UFO disclosures and transparencies within the government agencies. It fueled public demand for greater openness regarding unidentified aerial phenomena, prompting calls for the disclassifications of documents. John Callahan claimed opened a safe of speculation, inviting closer examinations of the relationship between officials and the mysteries of the skies. Number 2. Project Blue Book. Project Blue Book was the code name for the study of unidentified flying objects run by the U.S. Air Force March of 1947 to December 1969. The project was located at the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio, USA. It was initially designed by Captain Edward J. Ruppelt, was inspired by other projects alike. Blue Book's goal was to determine if UAPs were a threat to national security and to analyze UFO-related data. There were thousands of reports that they analyzed, researched, investigated, and documented, but they thought it would be unlikely that the studying UFOs would lead to any major scientific breaks, so the US government decided to terminate the project in 1969 for several reasons. Their first reason for the project's termination was that there was no UAPs that had been investigated, reported, or evaluated displayed a threat to national security. Secondly, there was no UAPs discovered that demonstrated a truly unknown or unidentified non-human technological enhancement beyond what we already know. And finally, there was no evidence that indicated any of the sightings that were reported as unidentified were extraterrestrial. Over their 22-year run, Project Blue Book has received over 12,500 sightings and reports, but none of them were actually unidentified phenomena. I actually have a video on a lot of the phenomena that were mistaken for UFOs, so if you want to check that out, please click Top 5 Sky Phenomena. It's pretty cool. But back to Project Blue Book. The project received a lot of backlash from the government, who believed that the speculation and theories surrounding UAPs should be debunked and not researched. The reason that they had every sighting that had been reported was just people mistaking natural phenomena or training. The project was taking a lot of money and was not providing any useful information. The financial loss that this project became, mixed with the doubt that UAPs even existed, pushed the government to decide that Project Blue Book was unnecessary, so they shut it down. Project Blue Book has since made itself well known within pop culture, being mentioned in TV shows and in UAP enthusiasts, and it was one of the most popular US government research projects centered around UAPs. So it makes sense that it gained so much traction and popularity. Have you actually ever heard of Project Blue Book? Number 1. The United States has reportedly conducted covert operations to recover unidentified flying objects, UFOs, revealing the existence of a secret CIA team tasked with this mission. At least 9 non-human crafts have been collected by the clandestine group, shedding light on the government's efforts to retrieve and study these mysterious aerial phenomena. The Central Intelligence Agency disclosed the team, operating under the Official of Global Access (OGA), has successfully retrieved 9 unidentified flying objects. These non-human crafts have been collected through covert missions, showcasing the government's interest in studying and understanding the nature of these enigmatic airborne entities. Among the UFOs, at least 2 were found in an undamaged condition, according to reports. The OGA believed that the operating under the CIA Science and Technology Directorate is credited with locating and securing these unconventional aerial objects. The ability to retrieve intact UFOs adds a layer of intrigue to the covert operations conducted by the CIA. The US Intelligence Agency reported possessing of a sophisticated system capable of discerning cloaked UFOs. This technology allows them to identify and track UFOs that may be be concealing themselves. Especially military units, including SEAL teams, are deployed when these unidentified vehicles land on Earth, or if they do. The existence of such advancement detection capabilities underscores the seriousness with which the government approaches the study of UFOs. As I mentioned earlier, former Pentagon intelligence officer David Grusch, which is in the previous one, was testified before Congress alleging that the American government has been involved in multi-decade programs focusing on the retrieval and reverse engineering the crash UAPs. At least that's that they think they are. Grusch claims whistleblower status informed Congress about the existence of such a program and the concealment of evidence related to the crash of UAPs and alien biological specimen. In contrast, a NASA report released recently stated that there is no evidence supporting the extraterrestrial origins of UFOs. The 16-member expert panels emphasize the majority of UAP's observations can be attributed to known phenomena or occurrences. However, the report also highlights challenging in studying UAPs, citing poor data collections and lack of uniform standards. These revelations surrounding the secret CIA team's retrieval missions, advanced detection technology, and contrasting perspectives within the government agencies contributing to the ongoing intrigue and mystery surrounding UFOs and UAPs.